Yep.
Yep, okay. All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to tonight's meeting. I want to open the school committee meeting of Thursday, November 15th, 2018. I can't believe it's November, almost Thanksgiving. I will make a motion to approve regular session minutes of October 25th, 2018, executive session minutes of October 25th, 2018, and acceptance of warrants 20P19, 19V19, and 21V19.
So moved.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Our student rep is not here. I think she probably will be here, so maybe we'll talk to her a little later on. Is there anyone here from the public that wants to talk about anything on the agenda tonight? Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a great couple of presentations tonight. We are going to start off with Mike Anderson, who has some capital improvement projects that he wants to talk about.
Right here, Mike, come on up.
Rock and roll, Mike.
Although I don't know how good these, yeah. There you go.
Hi, Mike.
Hi,
Thanks for coming out.
oh, you're welcome.
I did not want to come out of my house tonight.
I know,
It's too
that's
cold.
cold, huh?
Yeah.
So we have a few things for Mike to chat about.
Oh, okay.
A couple things are informational, and then, as you know, every year we're required to, well, not required, but there's a process for CIP, which Michael is on the committee. And I think Don Cudmore's on the committee as well. And Suzanne's on the committee. Well, we're all kind of around here. So basically, you help us prioritize, right? So we have a list, and you've seen the list. We just keep taking things off and putting things on. We have I think probably a 5-year list by the time
Yeah, more than
everything.
that, but yeah.
Right, so, we're at the point now where it's coming to be that time. We don't anticipate there's gonna be any money, but if there is, we would not want the schools to not be represented. So, in your orange notes, and Mike provided a little information, we had some thoughts on some items that we feel would be needed in the schools. And I think we did suggest the priority order, but, obviously it's always for discussion.
Okay.
So Mike, do you want to talk
Sure,
about
so the first item we talked about was the stage curtain, which we talked about before. It's a safety item, the fire rating of the curtain's no good anymore. And it's a $30,000, well, maybe 32, we even bumped it up a couple thousand. $30,000 item. It was
So
backed
it's-
over last year, there
It's
was enough money.
It's a safety item.
Yep.
But is it also like state law that it needs to be that fire
It's
retardant?
an FGA guideline, which is part of the fire code. right?
Yeah. Yeah,
the fire chief is recommending,
That it be
that it be.
yeah, I remember we talked
Sure.
in depth about
Yeah.
it, so,
It was something that was supposed to happen at the fall town meeting, and then
Right.
we didn't have a fall town.
okay.
That was, in my opinion, that was a top priority. The second item was the dishwasher for the cafeteria.
Mhm.
It's from 1996, so it's aged. It's, the Georgetown water hasn't been kind to it, and
Orange, like the notes?
yeah. It's orange, and the pots are wearing out, and the last time we had the guy there, they can't even get some of the pots for the machine.
It's too old.
22 years has certainly done.
Yeah.
Served its.
It's leaking water onto the floor?
Yeah, we did add a floor drain, because that was becoming a safety issue. So we put a floor drain underneath, so all the water, and we pitched the floor, so all the water runs down, and we gave them rubber baths and stuff. But one concern is the town's talking about doing away with styrofoam containers, and if that happens,
We use them.
like, the compostable paper ones are like 5 times the money, so that would be out of our price range. So they probably would have to go back to washing lunch trays, and there's no way that machine will keep up.
And as I said to you in the orange notes, usually what happens, what you hope to happen is that your food service revolving account, allows you to continue to sort of upgrade the program, and purchase, equipment and machinery. And we know the status of that account, so that isn't possible.
Yeah, that's another discussion we'll have later today.
Because it's just not possible, so unfortunately, I mean, I look at that as a health and safety. You have to have a working dishwasher. And as Mike said, you can't get parts for it anymore.
I mean, imagine if that was your dishwasher in your home, you'd like, wouldn't,
So our guys are pretty good, and they've made some parts and
Twice.
really band-aided it up, but, I mean, how long is that?
Yeah, we've been talking about the dishwasher internally for a
Since we,
long time.
yeah.
You could get high school kids to watch
Watch
them.
that.
Well, I mean, that's the other, you know.
time out learning,
service.
Suzanne.
I mean, to Pam's point,
It's a skill.
at home, if your dishwasher was broken, you'd wash them by hand. It's not possible to wash all the dishes we need and get through lunches, and we need every staff member to do the serving. So that's not, there'd be an additional cost to be able to do that, and which I don't think it's efficient. And we have to sanitize, you know, I mean, I don't think it would meet as the standard for standardization, so.
Okay.
And then the third item was the lawn tractor, but I don't know if we wanted to bump that, because we were talking quite a bit about flooring
Mhm.
at budget and finance, so, do you want to talk about the flooring or? So, we were considering purchasing enough flooring to have our guys lay the flooring, but what happens now is when we buy flooring, if we buy enough to do 2 or 3 classrooms, or even 5 classrooms, usually it's a small number because that's all the money we have. The next time we buy the tiles, even if we try to get the same tiles, it's a different color. So we were thinking of all the rugs at the high school and the Pearly School are pretty worn out. They're also from 1996, so their life expectancy is probably 10 years, and we've gotten like 25 out of them.
I made that observation when I inspected, I was looking
Yeah.
at early
Yeah,
school,
that,
it was, I mean, just really
So now,
jumped out at me,
when we-
very threadbare.
Shampoo them and extract them, there's bubbles in them, I mean, they're coming in glued, it's
Yeah.
becoming an issue. So our thought is, if we purchase enough flooring, over the next couple of years, our guys could, you know, hit so many classrooms every summer and change out all the flooring. So we'd save the labor cost, we would have the same type of flooring. And if we buy, you know, bulk flooring and we put it out to bid, that could even change the type of flooring if we buy it in multiple years, because we normally go with the lowest bid.
And the intention would be to not buy the shiny floor tiles, to buy the ones like at Pembroke that are, you know, like environmentally,
Friendly.
you know, friendly. Because one of the things that we know will happen, because we've seen it with Pembroke, is it does, it's more cost effective. You're not investing in
Waxing.
container wax and, you know, the labor that goes into just doing the work. You know, definitely, you know, a more effective, more efficient way to do it.
The custodian's not using stripper, so it's safer for them, it's, you know, not breathing in that stuff, no one else is in the building breathing in that stuff, so.
And they're easy to clean.
Pembroke
And
would just
maintain.
really wash it with water, or sometimes a really light detergent just to, but yeah, it's very easy to
And the
maintain.
floors at Pembroke look brand new in the hallways, so, and we've had, this is the fourth year.
It's like a commercial grade sheet vinyl, basically.
Right.
And what's the expectancy of that flooring?
It's
About?
30 to 35 years.
Wow.
How much does that cost?
Well, it depends on
Yeah,
what we
right,
talk
but-
about.
Mm,
How much per,
seven-
can you tell them how much per?
Yeah.
Like,
It's,
I'm sorry. We talked numbers.
yeah, we're talking about the budget fund.
so the sheet vinyl is about $2.80 per square foot.
And just you did 800 square feet of classroom? What was
Yeah,
the-
so that number's not accurate, because I included labor in those numbers, but, yeah, so 280, 800,
And times 28 rooms, was it?
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
What was that?
That's a lot of floors.
Was 20 rooms just the middle high school, wasn't it, Mike?
Yeah, so I figured out for, should I just gotta find the sheet, I'm sorry.
So clearly, we can do this all in 1 year, but what Mike's alerting us to is, you know, if we could work with the town to find money just for the tile. And then we would be, right, and we would be assured that we'd get the same product. And, you know, we wouldn't have to keep buying tiles that might not match.
So it's close to, it's 45,000 square feet to do Pearly and the high school. Because the Pearly school still has it in the hallways as well as the classrooms. So rough number is about $120,000. That's just for supplies.
Just for the flooring, not for the actual, the cost of the
I just
install,
made up
the
a-
labor, right?
CIP sheet on it.
Mike, was that's just for the physical floor, not for
Yeah,
the,
just
not
for
for
the-
the
just for the
glue
material.
and the-
That includes the glue at that price.
Oh, okay, so everything but the labor then?
Yeah, everything
Okay.
but the labor, yeah.
And the thought of bidding that out over the course of 5 years, we would have profoundly unmatched, different,
I think that's what the worry, the
brands,
concern
different-
is,
yeah.
right?
Well, and then what if the CIP doesn't improve every year?
right, oh yeah.
Right.
So on budget and finance, you guys talked about this? And is this what you did for
Yes,
priorities?
yeah.
So dishwasher, stage curtain?
I think dishwasher and stage curtain were sort of tied for first,
Okay, good,
and
yeah.
or interchangeable.
Okay.
I mean, we looked at it as health and safety in both cases.
Mhm.
I mean, we've lived with the stage curtain for years and, you know, for me, the dishwasher kind of, you know, trumps that only because I feel like it impacts, you know, students differently. If we have to, you know, wash dishes or do something like that, we
It's
just
more
can't manage.
sanitary.
And sanitary, it's, to me, if we can't find the parts for it and it really isn't, it's really cobbed together, we can't be without a dishwasher.
Okay.
That's just my opinion for discussion purposes.
And so tell me about the tractor.
Well, I think we could probably push that off
Okay,
until a later date.
okay.
We were going to do the tractor out of the
Facility.
With the truck,
facilities,
right.
but remember, but we made that
For the
switch.
truck.
Yeah,
That's right,
Mhm.
for the sander.
So,
but those other things are more of a priority, and it doesn't appear that there's any money at all anyways.
to even get,
It doesn't look like there's gonna be any CIP money. We still need to keep and maintain the plan moving
Yeah,
forward.
yeah.
But the likelihood of any of these being funded is pretty slim.
okay, so with the dishwasher issue though, how, I mean, we'd have to find money
We're gonna have to figure that out.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And the stage
Well,
curtain
that,
really bothers me
that's
too.
where you might be able to go, we might be able to go to the town for something like that, if they have some money for extraordinary.
The stage curtain? Or
No,
the
I'm
dishwasher?
thinking more the dishwasher. But,
Mhm.
we don't really have.
What's the cost, I mean, really, we get a stage curtain, I mean, is that specifically made, or is that, can you look for something
And
like
it's
that?
specifically
that's-
made because it has to be certified at fire retardant and all that kind of stuff.
So
It's
what
also
about,
proportional to our
Yeah.
state.
To our
I
state.
forget the name of the company I called, but what I basically did was talk to some of the school districts, get some names, and call around and get prices.
I think the stage curtain, when the Pembroke project was done, was just under $20,000, and that was
Can you,
5
I've seen
years ago.
18 and 30
what about the
in
TV?
different places. Can you just confirm?
So originally, we were only gonna do the front curtain,
Oh, the 30 is for the 3.
but because,
I think their grants
fire
are
department said they're all the
much
same age.
smaller.
Okay.
So originally, we were like
They
18.
might give us.
I think that's why Pembroke said they only had
That's
one
okay.
curtain.
I thought that was their purpose,
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
kind of.
Well, remember, the
The
GEF,
GEF
but
used to
remember
give
the-
money for,
Oh,
you know, they
the
gave,
arts.
the microphones for the stage,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
along those lines, and maybe,
I think it's the
maybe
cost.
partially
We-
fund the curtain.
That's right, I think that's the best you could hope for probably, would be if they would look at it and say, okay, we might not be able to give, because they, you know, they have,
No, it's
That's a lot of
they have
small
sort of,
ones.
smaller,
But
Yeah,
would
but-
would it be a grant procedure, just like,
yeah,
like at the gala?
well, I
it would
think
be-
we talked to them about it, I mean, I think they did fund some of the grand piano. I mean,
Yes.
they have definitely stepped outside of that, but I think they've tried to keep it in the process of you go through a grant, you go through the process. So I wouldn't rule the GEF out, you know, if we were in a situation where we needed to kind of put some sources together.
Can't buy part of a curtain though.
No, you can't, no, so I'm saying you
No,
have to
but
cobble
at least,
together
I mean, you know, we
people
could
who'd be
start
willing.
somewhere,
Oh,
and
yeah.
sort of build upon that,
Right,
donations.
okay.
Well, do we know when we will find out whether CIPs, there's no like timeline?
Michael's
Every
going, no.
indication is there will be no
And
money.
not necessarily only this year.
Yeah.
It might be a 2-year
Next year.
So it
hiatus,
sounds like with these things, we do have to look elsewhere.
if they become priorities that can't wait, you're right, you have to wait.
Well, I mean, that dishwasher could clock out tomorrow,
Mhm,
so we're kind of already on borrowed time with that,
mhm.
you know?
Yep.
Okay.
Can I just quickly ask about something that isn't even on the list?
Sure.
You know, there's some giant potholes in the Pearly parking lot. Is that
There
something
were
that the
just-
town?
Some of them were just fixed.
We're working with Peter Durkee on it.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's in a separate,
yeah, but some of them were just filled in, just recently.
okay.
Yeah, it's gotten progressively worse.
Yeah.
So Mike's been talking to Peter and, you know, they came and fixed some of them. I
Yeah.
don't think they completely fixed the
Let's see how
problem.
they look tomorrow after the plow's been on.
Yeah, that's still there, filled in.
Okay, just
Yeah.
curiosity,
You
yeah.
know?
Oh, it is a mess, can't we?
Yeah.
Okay. Ready to make a motion? Make a motion to approve the CIP priorities as discussed.
And then you have to stay here.
And we are putting dishwasher and stage curtain combined at one, top priority. Replacing the carpets. For right now, we're gonna table
Yeah,
the tractor.
So moved.
Second?
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Now Mike's gonna go up and he's gonna talk to the
Talk about that.
Conservation Commission, oh, yeah, he's not quite done yet. Conservation Commission and to talk about the parking lot, the basketball courts.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Yep,
But
okay.
So Mike, what else? We had one more
I
thing.
just had that letter about the, who am I talking about that?
The letter about the floor, yes.
Oh, the gym floor at Pembroke.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Well, no, that was.
the other thing.
Oh, good for you, Barbie. So the gym floor at Pembroke is easy, you know, the
goodness.
insurance company is going to cover the cost of full replacement of the floor.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, cause it's really, you know, if anybody wants to go over, Mike will take them on a little tour,
I showed
and you
Mike.
can see the issues.
And when would that be done, over the summer?
We're trying to schedule it over the summer.
Yeah.
It's gotta be ripped right after the cement.
Wow, okay.
And then,
But they're
the
insist-
thresholds have
You're
to
talking
be
about the
checked.
whole floor.
Whole floor.
All
And
the hardwood,
they're
then
insisting
the
that
subfloor.
we make sure the doors
Mm-hmm.
are secure, cause the supposition is that because the floor did wonky things, it allowed moisture
Yeah.
to come in, and then that kind of raised havoc with the, so we wanna make sure that that's not, the doors are, if you go over there now, you can see it's raised and it's actually affected the metal in the threshold.
Yeah,
It's
so like
a-
buckled up.
Like a big,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's $129,000 to replace it.
Wow, thank goodness, because last time we talked about it, we were thinking that it may possibly not be covered by insurance.
So,
Okay,
And
that's
the
good.
town did
Good.
change the insurance policy though, so it's a $5,000 deductible every single time we have a claim, so, you know, we're working on, negotiating that's the town's, you know, insurance budget that should cover that, but, we're gonna see where that comes from.
Okay.
Now, the other thing
What's the other
is the
So one of
opportunities to do a floor.
the architect who worked at the Pembroke School and the high school, also with one of these vinyl floor companies, has offered to put in, change one classroom for free, kind of like a sample, so we can see how it is, and that they can see how it is. They sent a letter
Yeah, so we
saying
said,
they would donate it.
yeah, we said to them, you have to donate it, and you can assume there's no further, you know,
No,
agreement. This
yeah.
isn't one of these, you put it in for us, you know,
There we go.
and now we'll automatically.
Do you have the
use
letter?
It's in here.
Was it, I don't remember seeing it.
I didn't see it.
Let's see, where's the letter?
It was, we were waiting for more details. Oh, you said not to put it in.
Waiting
We're
for
waiting
more
value.
details.
I
Oh,
emailed, I
okay.
emailed
Okay.
my,
So.
Oh, it's on the value.
Well, so basically, what there's, the details that I was looking for was what's the financial benefit, right? So they had said that they would install it, they would, you know, donate the materials, but what was the value of the donation? That's
Oh.
what I
Okay,
was,
so
that's
get
what
the
I'm,
value for
that's
it.
what I'm looking for.
I mean, would that be the $6
It'd
a
be the
square
free-
foot
Yeah,
times
it'd be whatever the 800
Yeah.
cost was.
Yeah.
$5,000?
And
That's
where
about
was,
$5,000, yeah.
and where are you gonna, which classroom?
I
How would you
picked,
determine?
I picked a classroom that needs it for,
The work.
because of all the people that are in it.
Yeah,
The wear and tear.
Yeah.
but which one's that?
A second,
It's a third
Third
floor
floor.
classroom, I forget that.
is it right up the stairs?
Yeah, it's up the stairs,
Right off the stairwell.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
All right, we can do it next meeting.
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, just in case it doesn't, you know.
Yeah, because when would we be planning to, were they planning to do it? Because that's the only problem, we don't want them to do anything until you accept the
Yeah, we wouldn't do it till
donation.
Christmas break.
Okay, so
Oh,
December 13th.
okay, we have the 13th meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, good, all right. Thank you, Mike.
thank you,
All
Mike.
right.
As always, good luck at the conservation.
Now
Yeah.
Mike is actually done. right?
I'll let you know. We'll make out.
Thanks, Mike. We have next we have the chief of police. Yes. Here, and our great SROs that have taken the time to come to see us tonight.
All sorts, there's no table.
I know, I
don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this.
You can come up a little farther if you want.
Oh, that's okay.
I know, I was saying something, we need a place for you to sit.
We
So
have
good
Officer
evening.
Britton here and Officer Olszewski. Thank
Yes, for people who
you.
don't know the SROs, I'm sure most of the staff does, but for the folks at home, Officer Laura Britton is the SRO at the middle high school, and veteran Officer Olszewski is the Pembroke SRO. And I was asked to come tonight to give you an update with regard to the program. We've kind of had a couple of kickoff meetings to get this program where we think it would be functioning at its highest level. So we're continually meeting with the administrative staff to accomplish that. And the last time I was here was in January 26th of 17 to give you an update on just Officer Olszewski, but obviously a lot has occurred in the last year. I'm not going to go into the history of the program. I think we know where we were, but where we are today is in fiscal year 2018, we're able to secure reserve fund monies to hire an SRO until the end of the fiscal year. We crossed our fingers in a town meeting through the very, very aggressive efforts of the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom, as well as this community. They elected to create this position and the override. And it was good news for the officer too, because she had quit her full-time job to come here. So it was a very good day for us and a good day for this community. So I want to thank them, the board and the Finance and Advisory, for doing that, and as well as the taxpayers who are paying for this. I think since we've started this program at that level, we've actually become a bit of a leader in this area. I've had countless police chiefs, 3 of them were in my office today, wondering how and why we have such a wonderful SRO program. And I think it's community-driven first and foremost. The district is the recipient of the police officers, but we as a police department are allowed to provide the services that we should be providing to both our students and the district. So it's nothing but a win-win. So to try and give a perspective of what the program is, I mean, I could sit here for 2 hours and tell you because of the work and the efforts that we collaborate together to keep the district at the level it is with regard to safety. So I'll try to give you a synopsis. I got a couple of documents that you can read at your leisure. But I think that most important, us being our own school district, pre-K through 12, the responsibility of this district, this committee and the superintendent, as well as my department, unlike the regional districts, it's our responsibility. We have nobody else to lean on. So I think the reason why we are a leader in this particular area is because we've taken that on, and we haven't let finances get in our way. The good news is, after the report of my friend Mike Anderson and the dismal capital improvement funding that we have, this is not costing anything at the surface with regard to budget. So this is one resource that this district doesn't pay for, with the exception of some small technology advancements, so that we can remain in the forefront of the advent of technology. So with the exception of that, I don't like to use the word free, but it's something that we have that we don't have to continually worry about right now with regard to funding. And I'll knock on wood with that. Just as an aside from last year, the most overwhelming response we got for the original SRO program is our traffic post on East Main Street. I receive daily messages, and both from out-of-town folks as well as our community, that for whatever the reason with regard to the SRO program, as great as it is, that clearly was the foundation for our Pembroke school. And it's important though, because it does provide that level of safety that this program should provide anyways. But that was kind of a masterful plan that we we put together with regard to our overwhelming traffic issues in the community. And that lies on the back of Officer Olszewski. So I applaud him going out there,
It
rain,
is-
shine,
Rain,
darkness,
yeah.
whatever, he's always out there.
It is fun watching as you get closer to winter. You just see less and less of Henry, and yet he just gets bigger and bigger. It's an interesting
Size, yeah.
transformation.
It's cold out there. So what we've had to do in the last year, there's been some very important changes relative to the juvenile justice law here in the Commonwealth. There's been a lot of sweeping reform at the court level, at the diversion level. So what we've done is we've had to incorporate that into the memorandum of understanding. It's taken the superintendent and I about 2 months to hammer that document out because we went from a 3-page MOU to about a 12-page. But it's important though, because what that MOU does is it really clearly defines Mass General Law, each party's responsibility, and then there's an additional document that I forwarded to the superintendent that we finally just finalized with these 2 officers with me, is to ensure that they have a full understanding as about to what their role is. And we're also, during our kickoff meetings, we'll be reviewing that document with the administration to have a full understanding exactly what the SRO does, because the vision of the program hasn't changed, it's just that the complexities of our society has changed what we, the police, do. And that's also encompassed not only with a school resource officer program, but American policing in general. So we have to really be aware of those changes, specifically with regard to the mandates with Mass General Law, and that's what we're doing. In addition to our continued programs, the CCI, the Community Collaborative Initiative with the District Attorney's Office, the superintendent and I also have to sign a yearly memorandum of understanding with the District Attorney's Office. That will change this year as a result of the memo, the MOU that we just finalized together. But that doesn't necessarily change our operation, but there's some philosophical things that we do, and I think the public is getting a general understanding. When you hear the terms restorative justice and procedural justice in our society today, there are many, many, many alternatives to arrest in criminal charges, especially when you're dealing with juveniles. And so the reform that has taken place is taking that into account, obviously, so that our youth can survive an incident if in fact they've done something that either they regret or rises to the result of a criminal charge. So we're working with that change, and there's several nuances in that law that have really come under fire because it's putting both school districts and police departments in kind of a no-win situation in order to handle something that may result in an officer having to physically take someone into custody, effect an arrest, or criminally charge. So what we've done, and we've been advised to do, is we take all of this information, safety first obviously, contain a situation, and then we'll work with our district attorney and our juvenile court. Because that's second in comparison to, it's not necessarily the need to criminally charge somebody, but if you think of the philosophy I just talked about with procedural justice and restorative justice, in that it's not necessarily the end of a situation when you criminally charge someone. We're trying to bring it to a resolution so that there's a better way to handle things that have happened. And we've actually used it in our district in the past with some incidents that have occurred. And that's all part of the foundation for this SRO program. We've taken the bold steps of not only training the entire school staff in ALICE, this alert training. It's not just an exception now, it's not every single year. There are schedules that these officers work with when you have new employees. And that repetitive training too for the students helps. So someone who starts in our district, they're this big, and then when they're bigger than we are, they know what they're doing. So that's a good thing. I have taken the step to sponsor an alert training for the entire region come February. We're hoping that comes to fruition. It's through a grant. It won't cost the community anything. And it's an advanced law enforcement rapid response training. And what that will do is it will train the police in Alice. We're training you what to do. We now have to train the police, not only an active shooter, but we have to be able to marry EMS response, fire response, other response, if you have a critical incident, to bring everybody together so that everybody that's responding is actually trained in a similar fashion so that we can accomplish the goal. God forbid if we have a critical incident. We've taken the step to train the officers in bomb threat training. Last year we had hundreds of bomb threats with school districts. Still goes on today. We're able to deal with those threats because there's an assessment plan in place. The officers are trained in that so that if it happens, not every threat is considered to be a level 4 threat, being the worst. Sometimes, it's something that can be determined to be a robocall. It can be something that's just not a direct threat to the district, so we're working on that. We've continued to work with the district with the crisis manual. We're also working on a safety guideline document for responses. That's a very complex document that we're hoping will, again, seek the response and the needs of the community and the school district back to the district at the administrative level and the police, so that we can push out that information and be transparent should there be an incident. So we're working on that. You know that we have the Say Something initiative that the district has rolled out. It's their program. We participate in case there's a life safety issue. We've actually had a couple of calls that has put the system to test. It's put us to test as administrators and police. Thankfully, they have not been something that we've had to deal with at a life safety situation, but at least it's put the system to test. So that is in place, and that's part of, I think, of that technology advancement. I think everybody knows too that the school went through some renovations. Pembroke is also working on some additional renovations, and I think that that has been also a part of the risk management part of our district and being proactive versus reactive. In our business, there's a renowned risk manager, Gordon Graham. If it's predictable, it's preventable. So that's what this is really based on. Our schools were not safe structurally at many levels, and now we've at least minimized that. Have we eliminated it? We can never eliminate it, but we are reducing it every day, because ideally the program is designed to have the community, the students, and the staff feel safe, feel respected, and realize that we're doing it together and that everybody knows what the other part of the team is doing. And I think we've proven that over time. And we're often asked, what are the successes of the program? How do you quantify it? Well, statistically speaking, it's difficult to quantify, but if I go through just a brief list of things that we do, I think that itself will quantify the program. But most important, you should ask these folks over here if it works. Like I told you, we can talk for 2 hours and I can keep going and going and going and going, but I think that I'll give you a couple of things, and I have some more lists of things that we're doing daily, but I think it's important to ask the customers how they're receiving this service, this resource. That's why it's called a resource. But I think the most important thing that we're working on with the procedural justice component and the juvenile justice component is de-escalation tactics. I've been a police officer since the 80s. You can only imagine what it was like in the 80s and like it is today, right? Everything has changed. Education has changed. Obviously, policing has changed. American policing has changed 180 degrees. Society is extremely complex. I mean, if you watch television, a lot of people don't even watch the news anymore with such a complex society. But we're dealing with that every day. And they're dealing with it at all levels, both as police officers with the adult population, but most important, our student population. Crime prevention strategies, they're there as a resource for the students to quantify whether we're preventing crime. Well, I know we are. There's no doubt about it, just the mere fact that there's a presence. I believe, in fact, the good news is as far as criminal activity and conduct within the school district, it was asked at town meeting what the crime stats are within our school district. Well, they're minuscule, and there's a reason for that. That's where we want them to be. Do we want them to be non-existent? I mean, really, that's really our goal, right? 0. I think that we, as police today, focus on social services versus prosecution. That's what we do. We provide social services. It's guardian versus warrior with regard to police services today. You always have to be a warrior. That's what you're there for. That's why they have the tools that they have. But in the end, we're there to provide that social service, that resource to assist the district, the students, and the adult population. I mean, a student that makes a mistake, it should not mark their entire career in their life if they've made a mistake. I can only imagine my mistakes in the Georgetown School District, I wouldn't be sitting here today. But thankfully, to people like that that are sitting in the back row, you know, they saved my life. So that's why it's important. I think that in the end, if we want to quantify, it's going to take about 3 years to look at where we were without our SRO program, where we were in 2004, and then 36 months after we've instituted this program to see where we are. Some of the things that we do that probably folks are not aware, you know, the teaching component that I apologize, we don't have my table tonight, so I don't know what to do. I'm all out of sorts. Not used to this. You know, the educational component that the officers have been participating in with the teachers in some of the departments over there. I know that Henry does a lot of community initiatives with regard to responsibility cooperation for his grade level. One of the biggest programs that I've seen Laura participate in, which was exciting only because it was in the MOU, and within a week we actually instituted, was a diversion program where she's actually participating in as a special employee of the district, assisting students who have stepped in it, so to speak, you know, that they have some issues and they need to get back to center, and they're working with not only the schools, but they work with the police officer and show that there's that team effort and that combination of resources. I know that the greatest thing that Officer Britton has brought is that for the first time, the SRO, she's attended proms and games, and she's actually going to coach one of your teams this year. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Really?
She's going to coach the JV lacrosse team, because she's a bit of an athlete herself, so I think that will be one of the first things. No. So I think, you know, I can't wait till that happens when we can get the photo off for that, because I believe that that's going to be one of the first things. She came to me and said, do you think it's a good idea? And I says, I think it's a wonderful idea. You know, I mean, where else is that happening? So, exciting.
So you run a club, right?
Right.
You have a club that you.
Oh, the internship.
Internship club,
Yeah.
yep. So, I mean, just think of it. Laura's only been there since April, and she's been able to accomplish those goals. Also, Shevsky's a fixture in Pembroke. You know, and I'm sure Margaret can attest to the valuable things that he brings to that school. She doesn't have to share him anymore. I like the fact that for Officer Britton, that the high school and the Pearly are a campus style anyways. I mean, there's only a baseball field that separates the buildings. We've been able to get a presence over there, not only for security, but physical security. She's actually there. She's over there, you know, playing with, you know, interacting with the little kids. And I think that that's important, because they've gone from wondering why the police are there, but to now it's just a normal everyday occurrence, and that's the purpose of the program, is to show that. But most important too, to protect, you know, the district is over there. That's where the superintendent's office is, the finance office is, and you know, those are still district employees. That just because it's, you know, that's not part of the school, but it is part of our district. So I'm glad we're working with them on that. I know that we've done the health and wellness fair, the mentoring class, the Trick or Trunk program. We've had Coffee with a Cop program every year. So all of these things, when people always ask me what's the quantifiable objective of the SRO program, I think that, you know, for the last 20 minutes I just told you what I believe it is. We've taken a step this year, and I'll end it with our fashion show, is that the officer, this is traditionally what our officers wear. As you can see, Officer Britton with her gear. And there was a lot of speak in the last couple of years to dress the officer down in the school. So model number 2 has So what's happened, as you can see, he still has the necessary tools, and the reason for the tool, I mean, is de-escalation and escalation. If something where a critical incident occurs, you know, an officer doesn't immediately pull out a firearm for a use of force situation, so the tools are designed for an escalation. If the officer doesn't have them on them, then that can't occur. So that's the reason why we can't eliminate the tools, especially too with the ballistic body armor. All of our patrol vehicles have both a assault patrol rifles and 12-gauge shotguns, and then one of the few towns that carry it in every single marked cruiser in the community. And then encompassed with that, all 10 vehicles also have schematics of all of our schools. And just to keep that updated, can you imagine, you know, Mike Anderson moves a wall, right, and he moves a door. So we go into the school in the fall and the place doesn't look like it did when we were there. All of those plans have to be changed, not only we have them on a computer, but we also have to change the manual plans, because we can't rely on the fact that the internet's gonna be up if there's a critical incident, if there's something that occurs outside the district that could adversely affect the school district. So all of those plans have to change. You know, keys, fobs, access, all of that's a lot for that building. You have a full-time staff doing that. We have to make sure that the 2 people that we're relying on have that information, as well as the other 30 officers that are responding. So we've taken the tack this year with this program to take every officer and get them in the schools. You know, I have turnover just like every other department here, and when an officer is hired, some of them have never seen the inside of these buildings. So to respond to a critical active shooter incident and never even step foot in the high school, they're gonna be just as blind as the person or people that are in there. So Laura took the step to do that, and Officer Olszewski's doing it for the Pembroke. So just that alone, that takes weeks of planning. When Mike moves his doors around, I always give him a hard time at that. When the building schematics change, we have a program that that district pays $350 a year for, the Be Safe program. They'll actually create the schematic for us. We have it both in computer and in hard copy, so that we're able to respond, and we can set up a command post if we have to, if there's a problem, so that we're aware of what these buildings look like and how to get in them. So
Should you mention Beth Daly and the NEMLIC Stars? And I know Laura's on
Yes.
that track too.
And recently, I've added Officer Britton to the STARS program, so Detective Carapellucci is on that for the external part of the SRO program, and then I just introduced, I didn't want to hit her all at once, so I finally waited till the fall to do that. And then next school year, Officer Olszewski will join that team too, because they have to be trained. It takes a while. Officer Britton went through the NASRO training and the national training for SRO, and he's been to two-day classes in, was it Norwood, where they did that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
then I'll alternate them next year for that training, so.
And what does the training occur? Is it used, like, if it's during the school year, like what happens to the schools?
Well, we do it during the summer when
Yeah.
schools are closed.
Okay, or
Yeah.
vacation time.
Yeah, that's what we try to do. That's why, for the alert training, I'm gonna try to do it during February vacation. And then we've also worked, and thanks to these officers with their collective bargaining agreement, we've kind of worked the school schedule around their schedule. So when the schools are closed, they're off, and vice versa. The contract traditionally, they would have the option to work, and it's reduced overtime for holidays, and they've taken the lead as union employees to do that, because it benefits the schools and it also benefits the town. So I applaud them for that,
Yeah.
because they could have maintained the contract language, but they've opted to help us, and it helps with scheduling, and it also helps with having to cover shifts. They do get vacation time, and if they're sick, so I do have to cover that. There are times, if one of them is absent, we use a term like we do in school, if they're absent.
Substitute.
Yeah, I have to figure out our schedule. So it hasn't been that much of a challenge, but, you know, right now that, you know, thanks to them helping me on the back end, I'm able to do that.
So the uniforms, so could you wear his? And
She's going to.
She's going to.
so that will be the standard?
Well, I think that, and it's more of a policy issue for me too, is that it won't be all of the time, because we have to kind of revert back to the fact that they are the police, and NASRO even actually recommends it, that, you know, you can come in and out of this role, but you have to remember who they are too. And that's why they also recommend that you don't have an officer in an SRO role forever. I'm gonna push it for as long as I can, because I have 2 great officers doing it, so as long as they're willing and they're viable, I'm gonna do that. And obviously, the new statute requires that the superintendent and the police chief pick an officer, so that I don't drive an officer into that district that probably shouldn't be there. Not that I don't have great officers, but some of them probably shouldn't be SROs. That's just the way it is.
It's a special skill.
It's a special skill. So you don't force someone to do the job. And these officers have stepped up to do the job, and they do a great job. And I have officers waiting that hope someday they are offered that, you know, they have young families and they're very viable around children, so that's part of the skill set that you need. How old is your daughter
So
now?
you have the,
6.
Six,
you have body, what, it's called body armor?
Yes, it's
So the chest protector,
the full
Yeah.
bulletproof vest, same as she has,
and so.
Just
It's
underneath.
just
Yeah.
underneath.
underneath.
It just doesn't look so bold.
Doesn't look so tactical.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
So you can tuck your hands in here.
So, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
and it can be intimidating, so, I mean, it's called a soft uniform. And, you know, I wear it sometimes
I was
during the
gonna
day.
say, you, Donna, you wear it, some days you wear your chief hat, and some days you wear.
I wear whatever I
That,
wanna wear,
yeah.
depends what day, how
It's
I'm
good to be
feeling.
nice.
How you feeling?
But you have, the point is, you
Right,
pick and choose what you do based on what you're doing. So
exactly,
it's the
and
same
so
thing to the
hopefully that,
officers.
you know, with the younger
Yes.
population, you know, on certain days, they can dress down, so. Dan had recommended that and asked for that
Dan had
immediately, and I said, well, we're working on it, but I knew that the MOU was coming and that it is part of the MOU, so I think it was a good idea.
How different are MOUs? It seems like it would, I understand that the relationships are kind of the make or break. How different are MOUs district to district? It would seem that they would be.
Well, what happened was, they were very different prior to the juvenile justice reform. The Attorney General's office actually sent out a template to the entire Commonwealth. We took this template, it was regional driven, it was all kinds of different components of that MOU. And everything I was able just to strike the regional component, gone.
Yeah.
Depending on whether you were 1 building, 2 building, 3 building, however you designed your program. So we were able to do that.
We just tailored it to our needs.
The only thing that stayed the same was the Massachusetts General Law requirements of the SRO. And if you read that document, it really was designed around the Juvenile Justice Reform Act, where they changed what we're doing with our juveniles, should they have a run-in with the law, so to speak, that they changed how the police are responding. And, you know, I think that it's gonna take some time to get used to that. And we'll be put to test. The district will be and the police will be, to see, you know, when we're called upon to act, how we're gonna deal with that, to make sure that we're in compliance. But I've attended several meetings with the DA's office, with the Attorney General's office, and there's gonna be more reform because there are some loopholes in the law that are not working very well on the court side. So with regard to that, once our legislature decides what they're going to do with that, Mass Chiefs has made some very strong recommendations, the DA's office has. I don't know if the Superintendent's Associations have, because there's some clashes going on, like anything that comes out. You know, people have taken different opinions on how we should handle a certain situation, so I think within the next year or two, you'll see some of the changes and some of those loopholes filled in.
So how do you feel with the kids when you're in school? Like, are they forthcoming, especially at the middle high school? Like, what are you seeing in terms of the way things may be presented to you, or like, do kids come to you and tell you like, oh, this is going on, or like bullying, or?
The good news is yes, they're very open. At first, it was, I feel like they had to get used to me kind of during in April when I first came in.
So
And
what are you
then-
looking for?
Excuse me, conservation,
Third floor.
third floor?
Yes, sir.
One floor up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
At first, they had to get used to me, and then now it's been, the 2 girls I have for internship, actually, like, they reached out to me to ask me if they could be with me for internship, and, you know, most kids now come to me, I leave my door open in my office, and at first, it was kind of empty the first month, and now, I feel like I'm always having someone in and out of there, and it's been really great, and, you know, friends tell their friends, and, you know, and it just keeps going, and I've even been at games where they come up to me, and they'll report, like, incidences that they might see, even over the summer, for instance, I was grabbing a coffee, and 2 of the kids recognized me, and they thought that they saw something that could be a crime, so they told me about it. They're very, very forthcoming so far, which is great.
That is good. So the internship, so do they, during that block, do they like see what you do, like a day in the life?
Yeah, they come in, so what I've done is, I have 2 girls, I asked them, you know, what are some things that you'd like to learn? I've, you know, kind of had them write it down. I came up with 10 things that would be good to answer their questions, and then I came up with 10 things that I wanted them to learn. So over the course, we'll go over them, and then they do have one long block where I'm at the lunch period. So for that long period, they go up to the library and they do their extra work that they need to get done. So it kind of gives them like the in-between. And they do a lot of community kind of service. Right now we're doing a food drive. The food drive will be at the police station on the 17th. And I've given out a box to each A block class for them to have a little contest, and whoever
the pizza
wins
party,
gets
I've
a
heard
pizza
that,
party.
yeah.
So they helped me, you know, Officer Morris, who's great, she helped me get all the boxes together. The students helped me, the interns helped me put them all out and kind of spread the word out. They helped me with See Something, Say Something as well. They helped me hang posters, they helped me put down the floor labels, and they've been talking, you know, with students about it, so they've been really helpful in that
Yeah, I
aspect.
like those floor labels. Yeah, they do look good. So the few see something, say something, were they applicable, or were they kind of, you know what I mean, like, were they really things that
No, one of
Or-
them was an actual hoax, and
Oh.
I think the other one was something that the district dealt with very swiftly. It wasn't something that somebody was in immediate danger, but it was just kind of a heads up, and I think that what was nice was when it first happened, we were able to try to determine, number one, how that response would work, and secondly, what everybody's role was, you know? To not have a manual to go by, because we'd never had this
Yeah.
before. It was kind of, you know, our first time at bat here, and we'll see how we did. And, you know, we did an after action, and it went fine.
And who gets the emails?
It depends on what the.
It depends on what the
Oh,
problem is.
okay.
yeah.
If
So it
it's
could-
a safety, a life safety, or a not life safety.
Yeah.
If it's a life safety, we all get it.
Mhm.
Okay.
And if not, you know, there's an identified group of people who get it, and they do it. I mean, it was interesting, the couple that I've seen, you know, some of them were kids overhear something, right? So to them, it's like, this is a problem, right? And so it's not that it's not happening, it's just that the interpretation is different than when you investigate it, which the school does. They take everyone seriously, they investigate it, they find out that it was maybe something that was said, but the intention behind it wasn't, you know, so it takes a little while for kids to sort of moderate that, but we want kids to use it. You know,
Well,
we'd rather
I
do the
think too that
investigation.
When days
Yeah.
go by and it's not being used, what that tells me is that the schools are dealing with things that are cropping up. The police are dealing with things. So that tells me that, and now if this system was ringing off the hook, that would mean that there are no places that these kids or
Right.
whoever can go to and tell their story. I think what they're doing is they're reaching out to their teachers, they're reaching out to the administrators, their guidance counselors, and they're saying, listen, so that tells me the district's doing their job. And that tells me that there's an open line of communication, because I'll pass around these logs. These are, the SROs are required to send, I just want to get this back, so you can just take a look at, one is Pembroke and one is the high school, to show that the interaction that the officers are having every day with the staff and with the students, we document that so that we can memorialize date and time if there's an issue or a follow-up needed. And then if it rises to the level that the police department has to act in the realm of being the police, obviously, if you read the MOU, it's at the request of the district. The police don't go rogue inside the school looking for things and wondering, you know, who we're gonna scoop up. It's the district. It's the district reaching out to the resource saying, look, we have a problem and we may need your help in this. Or, we have a problem, can you help assist with this? Because as special employees, they do that. I think it's important, and you can see it in the MOU if you read it, is the district is in charge of the school district. The police are the resource. We're not in there trying to create police calls for service. We're not in there trying to drum up business. We have enough business, we don't need any more. If we don't get one call, we're happy. So that's what that MOU did, and that's what the law did too, and it gives very strict guidelines. But this is just an example. They submit these reports to me so I can take a look at it, but you'll see some of the interaction with the principals and the students. Just ignore some of the call numbers, those are just internal for that. And I also listed from our task force meeting, just so you know some of the acronyms and things that we do. pass those around of the things that I had reviewed. Sorry to throw that at you like that, but
Because you don't have your table.
I don't have a table.
You're doing very well. Yes, you are.
So can we take one?
You can take one of those, yes, and all that does is kind of encapsulate what these programs are. A lot of acronyms, I don't even remember some of them, I have to look at the cheat sheet, because there's Alice and Alert and CCI and all these things.
Right, NEMLEC
And NEMLEC and STARS, and then there's STARS, the Be Safe program, so, but at least as school committee members, you know what we're doing in some of the larger programs.
So you were saying that the success of the program, you have to see like 3 years out to collect the data. Are you seeing less incidences because of their presence? And I would also have to say the respect that the students have for them, that they've, gained over their time that they've been.
I do, and I think that what I would do though is I would submit at the same level that we're just another tentacle of their work. That's all. I mean, I think that, it's not because of the SRO program that we have a great school district or that we don't have a discipline issue. It's the boots on the ground, these folks that are in there, fighting the fight every day, if you can be so bold to say that that's what they're doing. And then we're just another level that they can go to. And also too, that there is a deterrence to the things that are going on today. Let's be frank, the fact that there's full-time police vehicles in and out and parked at your schools every day, that there's a police officer roaming around. Anybody that has ill intent, if they want to try something, they're just not walking into people who just, are by themselves, So that's how I try to quantify it. And when I said to quantify in 3 years, if we look at statistical data for police responses to the schools, I can vividly remember and why I applied for the grant in 2004 when I was a sergeant, is the fact that when I worked the day shift, we're at the schools every day as just a local police department, a small police department, because that was the majority of our population that we were servicing. And I'm like, there'd have to be a better way to do this. So the fact that the police we're not being dispatched to the school every day, that means that there's good things going on in those buildings. That if a problem is identified, I mean, you're working on a diversion right now where a child wrote some inappropriate comments or whatever it was, I'm not quite sure of the details, but, to be able to handle that before it made a situation where the police had to respond and then they're questioning whether it's a crime or not, guidance is handling it. They're working with the police, juvenile justice, and they're helping, resolve the situation.
Well, and to your point, it's de-escalating.
Mhm.
It's de-escalating something that could spiral out of control before it even has
Right.
the chance to.
Right.
And your guidance, just like you have counselors, I mean, there are people in our community that are in crisis. There are people that are in crisis daily, and they have children in the district. Now, you don't read about it every day in the paper, and you don't get a report on it. It's because it's being handled by the district. People that have challenges, students that have challenges, families, probate, court, and it's being handled so that, these folks are a phone call away from each other so that they can help each other.
Right, and I appreciate you giving the credit to the administration, I think that's great, and I do think they do a great job, but I definitely think having the police presence there
Of course.
that has always been so important to me, and I know when I drive by and see it, it gives me a good feeling
Mhm.
too, and I enjoy the interaction now, because I know when I was growing up, police, you didn't look at them, and now kids are,
Unless you were guilty.
hey, yeah, no, it was just intimidating.
Oh, we're breaking down those barriers.
Yeah, but that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, that's what I meant by your presence being there and gaining the respect
Yeah.
of the students is sort of bringing down some of the incidents, I would think.
And not because he's my friend, but if every school had a Mr. Prescott, we probably wouldn't need the SROs, so, I mean, I've always relied on his role at our high school. He's been here a long time,
Yeah.
as have I, in that it's that type of dedication that really can help deal with some of the crises that we deal with students, especially at the high school level. We always say that, you have the real small ones at the Pearly, the medium ones at Pembroke, but then we have adults, that we consider to be adults, although they're juveniles, are in that building, so that's where the challenges are, and the fact that we don't have an alarming number of calls for service in that building is a testament to the fact that people are doing a good job over there. And we're keeping it, at a level where we're able to help. That's all we're here for, is to help. you know, that's the purpose of the
Do
resource
you,
program.
do you want to, I know Guy came specifically tonight, because you were talking about this.
Dodd's doing such a great job, I didn't want to step on his
I want to be
toes.
sure that the principals have an opportunity if they want to make any comments.
Yeah, I would actually. The cooperation and the collaboration that we do is, obviously, it's daily, and, you know, it's worth every penny to work
It's
with the
free.
kids. Well, somebody's paying somewhere. But it's really been great. I can speak for both offices. I've worked with both of them. They're excellent. I think they're very well placed right now, working with the, you know, the students that they work with, and they do a great job. They help us every day, all day. So, you know, we're thrilled to have them. And the work Donnie's done, you know, over the last decade here has just been amazing with Carol and the committee. You know, kudos to everybody for putting this in place. It does matter. We are doing a lot of good things. Unfortunately, you know, we don't report out on all these incidences and things. We take that stuff pretty serious. You know, we don't like to talk about other people's business. We do handle things legally and appropriately on a day-to-day basis. So he's absolutely right. You know, it's hard to quantify, but I think without it, it would look differently around here. So we're very happy.
Guy, what's your sense of how the students receive it?
Well, I think at first it was, you know, it's always gonna be something new, and then once they engage with the personalities, that changes everything.
Yeah.
You know, so what we're trying to do is put them in situations where they are engaging with the kids in different activities, whether it's in the classroom or, you know, we're out in the ball fields, or in the yards, in the lunchrooms, and we, you know, they got a full run of the building now, where at first they just thought that, you know, they're gonna be a stationed soldier at the front door. That's not the case. So, you know, they go to places where they're checking for things and helping us, and certainly responding to any and all incidences that we do have. And I think that memorandum of understanding has been upgraded to the level where we're both confident in working with each other. No one's stepping on each other's toes or afraid to make decisions and cross any lines. So, you know, that has been certainly smoothed out, and it's working great.
You know, when we had one situation where there was some confusion on that, everybody got together and it just worked it right out. So, you know, I think that speaks to, you know, sort of the ongoing collaboration.
Right.
I mean, you know, I think when Donnie says he's got other people who go into his office and say, how come it works? Well, there's a lot of reasons it works, and there are a lot of reasons why it doesn't work in other places. And it's probably not for lack of, you know, hoping that it can work. It's really about all these things that, you know, you can't quantify, that it just exists because of the way we work together, the personalities, the shared commitment, you know, just.
And I think it's important that there are two components, and as a person, not only as a resident, a lifetime resident, but educated through the district, raising a family here, sitting on that side of the table for a time, realizing that the work that it takes to keep it at this level is a lot of work, because it's easy just to say no. It's easy just to, well, that's not my job. But I think we've proven we are so far beyond that. And I agree, secondly, with Mr. Prescott in that, you know, when people will read the Georgetown Record and they read the police log and they think all we do is chase cats and fix mailboxes, the issues, but the issues is fundamentally with the new FOIA laws, there are many, many crimes that just are not allowed to be reported.
Right.
That's it. You know, there are probably 50 to 60% of the work that we do at the police department is not in the newspaper, because you're not allowed to put it in the newspaper to protect people's privacy, to protect people's rights. And when you're dealing with juveniles, and especially in a school district, it's even at a higher level. So when people think they have a right to know, you have a right to know some things, and if we do have to go down that transparency road, there are many mechanisms in place for people to know. But, you know, think of yourself as a parent when you have a child that possibly is in need, or someone who may have made a mistake. You know, you're not tarred and feathered in the center of the town anymore because you've made a mistake. It can be fixed, it can be helped. These folks can do it, and we can do that too. And I think that's an important component of this program. That's the reason why you don't see or you hear certain reports, and that was a good point that Mr. Prescott made, is that we're not advertising some of the things that we're doing.
Right.
It's to protect the folks who are involved so that they can regain a bit of dignity or possibly move on with their life without having to live with something that's, tattooed on them forever. So, I mean,
Right.
that's a very important part of the program. As special employees, they're invited to the meetings. There's confidentiality rules that they had to abide by and then that they signed. So I think that's also important.
So how do you do that log? Because it's like every minute of your day is
Mm-hmm.
logged. So do you have like a computer that you log in, or?
I usually, to be honest, I usually use my phone, or
Yeah.
I have this little handy notepad I carry, like
Oh, okay.
I do on like the road. So if I feel myself going to the next thing, I always mark the
Jot it
time
down.
down, and then make sure at the end of the day, like if you go into my office now, I just jot all the times down, and then at the end of the day, or even over the course of, I'm so busy over the course of 2 days, I'll get 2 days worth of work I'll put in. So it's always either logged on my notes on my phone, or logged on my if I have my notepad with me, logged on my notepad.
Wow.
So we just keep track
We
of
both-
it all.
One of the biggest differences now is that we each have our own offices in our own schools.
Which
So we
is
have
great.
computers, we have like time, we can go and just go in there and like do data entry.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll do the same thing, I'll use my phone, or call it in on the radio, and they timestamp it for us, and we can pull up that log.
Oh, good.
And so like say, oh, I'm off here, I'm off there, and
Mhm.
then we can go back and kind of, it timestamps it exactly.
So where is your office in Pembroke?
I'm in the library.
Oh, okay.
So if you go in and you want to if you want to laminate anything, you're looking in my window, right in front of the laminator. So
And no stealing books out of the library.
yeah, not anymore.
They haven't put
No, but that's a nice
lamination on
office.
your job description,
Is
so.
that where they make punch the leaves?
Yes, right next door to me. Yeah, they make all the leaves.
No, and how do you feel about, I know we've talked about this before, you went over to Pembroke,
Mm.
because it's quite different.
It is. Well, I have a 6-year-old daughter, so that's right in my wheelhouse. At that age, most of them at that age, like they think I'm a rock star, which
Yeah.
is great. So I'm high-fiving and fist
Until
bumping
they-
everybody.
yeah, until they figure it
like,
out.
right, and then they get to like the middle high school, and then they're like, not so much anymore. So I'm happy where I am. I think Mr. Prescott was right spot on. It's right in my wheelhouse. It's my age bracket. My daughter's right there too, so it's funny. I can kind of connect a lot of things from home and work. So I have a lot of little pictures that the kids draw me in my office, in the
yeah,
library,
yeah,
and
that's
we
nice.
do a lot of different things. And just to touch on a couple of quick things, like we had a thermometer break yesterday and the mercury spilled.
I heard.
And so we didn't know if it was toxic or what. So they like had me go up because I
It
can.
wasn't mercury.
Right, correct, sorry, we're on camera, it was dyed alcohol, right? Thank you, Mrs. Marr. But we found that out, and we had me there to see if we could call the fire department.
Of course,
like-
send Officer Olszewski in.
So, but we went up together, but yeah, so anything like that, I'm always there to help out with whatever needed, so.
No, that's great.
They've
That's
done
great.
cyberbullying.
Oh yeah, we do
Things.
tons of education in classroom where I teach
I love that.
classes, all the Alice training, of course, and then all the extracurricular. We have the movie night, the trick or trunk. So I do a bunch of stuff with the CPAC as well. So
You just did Alice training.
I did Alice training with CPAC. Yep.
Special ed parents.
So- Yeah.
Are you
Yeah, that's
training
great.
other districts to
We
bring
should.
SR? I mean, you really should. I see all the issues that are going on in other districts, and I'm just amazed
Like a
that.
side
And I believe Salisbury
Well-
is just starting Alice.
Yeah, we had during the summer, we had a couple of meetings with the task force, and, some very kind words were said about our district, and some folks who actually have children in our district, and police officers in other communities said that they just were overwhelmed with how our program runs in comparison to theirs, which was a very, the kind words are great. That means you're trying to do it, you're doing it right, so that's good. We've become a resource in that regard, and if we're called upon, we'll certainly help folks. I mean, I've sent everything that I have to my brothers and sister chiefs who are trying to get their
That's
programs
great.
off the
Yeah,
ground.
we have too.
And and I'm sure the superintendent does the same thing. But like I said, it doesn't come easy, and there's a lot of work. We have to make sure we keep our lines of communication open, and we've been challenged with a couple of incidents. It certainly doesn't challenge our professionalism or our friendship, but we are challenged to say where we think we should be. And in the end, at the end of the day, we come out united. In our business, incident command is a unified command. There's nobody in charge.
Right.
And everyone always wonders when you're at a scene, who's in charge? The police, the fire? It's called unified command. You sit together, and in the old days teaches us the new days of what you're supposed to do when you're in command and in charge, and try to have that unified command, and we do that with the district. Because it's very easy to just point to each other and go, here,
Yeah.
tag, you're it, but we try to make sure that we're unified in our decisions, and that's probably the most important thing that we do as the administrators, as the bosses, so to speak.
You know, I think what happens in some other towns is it gets egos get in the way. Like, who's got the greater power? It's a power game. We don't have that. We're not competing for, you know, who's got a more prominent role, who's, you know.
I mean, her football team is bigger than mine, but I think I can take them, so I'm just thinking, you know, because she's got me with the numbers, but I'm gonna say my team's pretty good.
I think with that was too, from what I learned at NASRO training I went to Maine, as far as Alice goes, you know, one of the NASRO trainers is an officer up in New Hampshire, and he asked us, like, oh, has anyone ever heard of Alice, and who trains in Alice? So, like, I think it was like a room of like 50 of us, and like I think there was only like not even 10 of us who like raised our hand.
Wow.
So it's kind of amazing that you know, the proactivity and just the response that we've gotten from it, and it is the next thing. Like, he was, you know, out there like, do it, like, you best do it, and you know, it's been nationally like being done. So
Yeah.
we're pretty quick on the page to do it, because when I saw them not raise their hands, I was like pretty shocked about how many people didn't raise their hand, and it's been pretty awesome. So.
And we have
Yeah, that's
other
great.
SROs from other communities actually reach out to us personally and ask us, how'd you get going? How's it working? You know, how do you like it? And we're all like, it's great, it's wonderful, it's awesome.
Larger cities too have
Yeah.
sat with us and said, how do you do this? And our SRO program is bigger, so I'm like, well, my team's bigger.
Yeah, most big-
It's fun, I said, you know,
Most
this
districts
is,
don't have an
this
officer
is
in
how
each
we do
school.
it, and so that's,
No.
there's your quantification right there, is that, you know, we're doing everything to the best that this community can afford, and to take that risk management component and just continue to reduce with the hope of eliminating something bad happening in our community.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful.
And that's our story.
I applaud both of you, really, for doing it, because I know it can't be easy. I know it can't be easy to deal with all those kids and the different, you know, troubles that they have, or concerns that they have, fears that they have, or, you know, it's quite a undertaking.
Well, the superintendent and we have a running joke that when I go over to the school and I see what she has to deal with, you know, I have 2 kids, and I'm like, you're dealing with a district of 1,700 plus. I said, I wouldn't do your job for all the money in the world. Then she says it to me, and she says, well, I wouldn't do your job. I said, then looks like we got our role squared away, so we're good.
I said, no ego.
Right? I wouldn't. It's
I have
great.
trouble with 2. They're adults now, but
And I'm sure they tell you that.
every day.
They think it changes when they're 18, it's like,
So if you don't have any other questions, I don't want to take any more of your time.
I think you guys are doing a great job.
That's our
And you're doing a
report.
great job really with traffic, because people would never be able to get out of Elm Street if you weren't there. And I know it's dangerous.
That traffic post was the best thing I ever invented.
Yeah, it was.
I'm on West Main, and I can tell at 7:30 in the morning, or at 8 o'clock in the morning, if Henry's there or not.
Yeah.
It's obvious from
Oh,
a mile
that's
away
low,
or whatever
yeah.
it is, yeah.
And-
Now it's job security, but a light would be great there.
That's been
Yeah, we've
discussed
tried.
recently.
I know.
That has
Well, it's come down to the nuances too of which officer's doing it. If Henry is not
Oh, yeah.
available,
Oh, I can
if he's
tell.
not there, yeah. You know, trust me, social media lets me know too. And they let me know that, you know, where is the regular officer? Why is this happening? Is he coming back? You know, why is she there? Because we have a component of female officers, not officers. But, you know, I get all of these messages, and I'm like, he's on a day off, he'll be back tonight.
Does he dance or something? I've seen the dancing
Yeah, I am waiting for the.
You're not the first one to request that. People usually yell out the window as they drive by.
Oh, what, like the guy in
Yeah, the
Providence?
dancing.
I don't want it to stop.
The whistle.
Yeah,
Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
And congratulations and good luck with lacrosse.
I know, yes.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.
Oh, you're leaving time, bye guys.
And now to the high school.
Wow. It's good seeing you, I gotta come and chat with you.
Yeah, definitely.
To know that's
Oh, Dad said the parent teacher, and he said he's gonna make popcorn and watch us later when he gets home, so. Put on a good show for him, all right? Wanna pass out a light.
That's right.
I mean, now he hears it, 'cause it's on the
Oh.
TV.
You don't take breaks, commercial breaks?
No commercial breaks here. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you. I have to say, the guns were intimidating. Like, at first, I was, the corner of my eye, I'm looking at Henry, I'm like, is that just a shirt that has a,
No, he had the full uniform.
you know what, no, that has like a picture of a gun?
Oh.
And then I look closer, I'm like, ooh, that's like right
No, they
there.
have
It's
no
big.
But if anything were to happen.
Yeah, I know, they're great, I love it.
I just,
Some
love it.
SROs, they have the gun too, but not the full, not the full gear, but for the reasons that I explained.
I love having that partnership with them, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it is.
It's worth all the money in the world, even though it's free. But it's
anything
great,
would
it's
happen, I
awesome.
feel like our
It's
children would be
great.
well
It's great.
protected.
Definitely, yep. Okay, are we gonna talk about sports boosters?
No.
Okay.
We were,
Yeah,
but
that's okay.
they couldn't come tonight, so we're going to, they wanna come next meeting, so
Okay.
we'll have
I
them
put
on.
it out on
So it was
Facebook,
really
so-
just to,
Is that
Um,
Shannon?
Shannon
And Lisa?
Brian will be
Okay.
there, and, you know, so I think,
Perfect.
it's just a good idea, I think, to bring them in,
Update, yeah.
update, you know, let people know that they exist
Yep.
and how they can get involved. And
Yeah, we're doing good
And
so
actually,
far,
next
that's
meeting,
fine.
I think, it's, Ryan's doing the fall report, so there's a couple of other sort of things that
Tie in.
kind, yeah, so I
Yeah.
think it's a better fit anyway.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're going to talk about, is Jack next?
Well, I think the superintendent schools are, but we could do Jack next,
Jack wants to be next.
and then they can all go home.
Yeah, let's bring Jack up.
Because they have a long
Yeah, and then
drive.
we'll talk, yeah.
They told me I have to be quick, so.
Oh, because they think they're gonna get to go home.
Hi, Jack.
Hey there. Good to see you. Thank you for coming.
Jack's been busy because Wet Walker Partnerships is,
Oh, I've seen all
Here.
the emails, yes, you have been busy.
Quite a few. But we're not here to talk about that.
nope.
So actually, I'm glad to be following with police officers because really what I'm talking about has a lot in common with that. So we're, when we present our district goals next month, you'll see that we're really focusing on social emotional learning within the schools. And basically, I've put a committee together to really look at what we're doing for our social emotional programs for special education, pre-K through 12, and really trying to rebrand that program, trying to make sure that we're really aligned throughout the different grade levels and throughout the schools, and really looking at the need for more clinical support for those programs, and that you know, we have solid teachers that are involved there, and we do have school adjustment counselors that are attached to those programs. But I'm really hoping to get a different level of expertise in to those programs. So you may know that our teacher for the middle school program resigned about 6 weeks into the school year. I've interviewed a few people for that, and
Which position was that?
Middle school.
middle school social
Yeah.
Social
emotional
emotional.
program.
Oh, okay.
So
And it's hard to
currently,
find people after
Yeah,
the
in the
school
mid,
year.
right.
And in that training.
Yeah,
so you have in your packet what my proposal was to do that, and really trying to kill a bunch of birds with one stone, if you will, and look at where some of our deficit areas are as far as support throughout the district. And one of the things that Mrs. Jacobs and I have talked about quite a bit is the school psychologist position for the district. So the current model for that is that person we have one position for the district, works throughout the entire district, and really just does testing. So last year, we had 130 assessments that were done by our school psychologists, give or take one or two. And,
so when you say 130 assessments, is that when people ask for their child to be tested?
So it could be
or-
an initial evaluation.
Okay.
But as part of special education every 3 years, we have to.
3-year
Okay,
Wow.
so it's not, I was thinking it
It's
was more
not
like,
just.
just
Not,
like
not
new.
130 new,
Oh.
but it's one, they're
it's all
kids.
combined, okay, so it's the 3-year,
I'm sorry?
How many?
About 130.
District
So
wide.
we have,
That doesn't mean
again,
they all
approximately
No, right.
230 some odd kids within the district that are identified for special education.
Mhm.
So, you know, and I don't have all of those numbers with me
Sure.
tonight, I apologize, but, you know, if you figure we're doing it every 3 years, we're doing testing, so you can say it's 80 some odd tests are gonna be done for the reevaluations. And then, about 50 referrals on top of that.
Mhm. Okay.
And we do have data within the department that says how many of those referrals were valid because we identified kids and those sorts. I don't have it with me, but I can certainly provide the committee with that.
Can I ask you, so when we do the assessments and say our assessment comes up saying that the child is not, doesn't qualify, and then, you know, parents can choose to go to their own outside agency and have, you know,
A testing.
right, so I hate to put you on the spot like this and tell me if you don't have the, like, I won't hold you to the number, but like, what would the percentage be of when we say they don't qualify and then they do?
Well, they would only qualify through our
through us.
process. So anytime that a parent has an outside evaluation completed, we're obligated to review that,
Okay.
that testing, and then make some determinations based on that testing as to how we want to proceed. But even if the testing report states this child should be on an IEP, it's still a team decision
Okay.
to make that determination.
Okay.
So, you know, obviously we hold that testing in high regard, but we would always want to do our own assessments on
Mhm.
top of it.
Okay.
And it's not just testing that we look at when we're determining eligibility. Obviously, classroom performance is a big part of it as well.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
So to bounce back to the school site position, basically, I feel like, and I believe Mr. Jacobs agrees, that we're really looking at not utilizing our resources appropriately, that we have someone who's been trained to do all types of assessment, but also to do the counseling portion. And our current person isn't able to do that because she spends her entire time doing testing. So, long story short, the proposal is that instead of hiring a teacher to take over that program, that we would look at doing more clinical support. So our current school psychologist, Christine Brown, who's done an excellent job for us, would work just in the middle high school, be responsible for the testing, but also responsible for the therapeutic components of our social emotional program. And then we would hire someone similarly within the elementary school to do that same job.
So it's revenue neutral, because by not hiring the teacher,
Mhm.
you have, we're making a shift, basically, to a school psychologist. And we think, in doing that, I mean, Jack knows what his budget is. So we're not hiring an $80,000 school psychologist, we don't have the money for that. So working within the structure, we believe we can get a highly qualified elementary school psychologist for that budget, but for the budget amount. And we'll get a better value for the services, because now we can actually have the school psychologist doing counseling with kids, where before we couldn't. So if you remember the history, Cheryl will remember this history, is when I first came here, the district was paying $1,000 for every evaluation, because it was all done outside. So just look at do that math, right? If you have 130 assessments, that's a lot of money. So we said, we can do this more effectively and more efficiently. That's when we hired Troy Carr, remember?
Right.
And so, Troy was a very highly, qualified person, but he was less expensive than the money we were spending and we got a better value. The problem is, it was really trying to solve this issue of testing. Even though we knew we really wanted more counseling, the needs of the kids are changing. We're seeing more of this school phobic, the social emotional, the mental health. And so we're needing to ensure that we have more therapeutic interventions.
Isn't that
in
what
the school
Elizabeth
district.
Carroll does?
Well, Elizabeth is she's a school adjustment counselor, and she does do a lot of working with groups of kids and individual, and she has counseling background clearly. But you're talking about a higher level. You're talking about like really somebody who's therapist, right? Therapeutic level. So it's levels of support, right? So we're lucky that we have levels of support.
So that person would do testing
And work with
groups.
targeted kids and groups that really would benefit from that service. And because it's revenue neutral, we like that concept.
You know, in thinking of the concept too, so if I'm the expert and I go in and do the cognitive and psychological testing for students, I'm not allowed to really follow through other than, you know, I sit at a meeting and I give that information. But because, you know, 95% of her job truly is testing, she doesn't have that follow through with teachers afterwards, you know, to be able to say, all right, so we found out this information from the testing. Now, how is that, how are the interventions that we're putting in place as a result working in the classroom? We don't have that type of follow through in the current system.
And we have had trouble getting steady staff in that program pretty consistently since we started it.
And why is that?
You
Do
know,
you think?
I think it has to do with, it's hard to find people with those qualifications. Sometimes it's a fit and a match. You know, sometimes they're people who maybe don't have the full therapeutic piece. They're good special education teachers with good behavioral skills, but it's different. We're just finding that it's been hard to keep people in that position. And one person we had who was good wanted to go into special ed. You know, that's a tough position. I mean, there's a lot of burnout in working with, you know, in some intense needs.
I would imagine therapeutic at K-6 is very different than
Sure.
therapeutic in 7 to 12.
Sure.
So
Very true.
you can actually get somebody who can do the K-6 well,
Yeah.
and somebody who can do the 7 to 12
Yeah,
well.
anytime you have a K-12 position, it's tough. I mean, Colin can tell you that, Jack can tell you that. You know, they do an amazing job, you know, sharing themselves around. But if you had an elementary curriculum coordinator and secondary curriculum coordinator, just like the SROs, right? When we had one for both, you know, you have to split your time. It's not always easy. Benefit is you have the continuum, so you can see, you know, where you start to where you end. But in terms of how you actually devote your time, it's tough. So that's why I would say we're thinking that at this moment in time, given the students that we're working with, given the fact that, does it really make sense to hire another teacher? Is that the right model? Anytime you have something like this, gives you the opportunity to kind of step back and say, you know, is there another way you maybe should think about this to see if maybe this is the time to change it? And we believe it is, you know, and so this is our recommendation. So it's revenue neutral, but what it will involve is moving money from sort of one location to another location and capturing that on
Is the 130 assessments, how does that split between the two schools? Is it 50-50 or is it?
It's pretty close, believe it or
Okay.
not. You would, you know, my thoughts would always be you're doing more at the elementary level,
Yes.
right? But when you look at the reevaluations, you're always having to do that
Every
at
3
the-
years.
Got it.
at the high
Okay.
school level.
So the 50 might be skewed towards the elementary. The 50 new
Yeah,
Right.
would be.
assessments
yeah,
would be
Right.
skewed towards the
elementary.
elementary.
But it is surprising, the numbers are pretty
Yeah.
similar.
Okay.
at
Yeah.
the levels.
And sometimes what happens, and this I've seen it everywhere I've been, is people somehow think that the disabilities they happen when kids transition from elementary to middle school. So they're able to get through elementary school, but then middle school changes, right? The whole structure's different, the whole emotional time is different, and all of a sudden you tend to see a little bit more referral in many places, you know, at that sort of middle school level. Not so much 11th and 12th graders or even 10th and 11th, but there's that transition.
Especially with social, emotional.
Anytime you have a transition, you tend to see a little bit of a peak.
Well, and as, you know, students become more intricate, right? So you're doing different types of testing when you get into the middle and high school level, where, you know, the vast majority of assessments within the elementary school are going to be cognitive assessments, but you're doing far more psychological assessments for students as they're developing into adults, you know, when you get into the middle and high school.
Jack, could you just remind us what the MAPS program looks like? Is it, I know you talked about this last year, just in terms of students, like are some students there like all day, some involved with inclusion? And I guess my question leading up is, you know, the academic component for these kids. Obviously, the social emotional piece, if that's not strong, then they're gonna have trouble learning. But just in terms of being that academic support for them too, I was just
Are
wondering.
you wondering if there's not a teacher that's assigned
Right,
to that?
are there
So-
tutors or are they in classrooms? I just wasn't sure, sorry.
So the overarching philosophy is that students are included in their classes and have opportunities to utilize the social emotional program when that need arises. So, you know, if I'm a student involved in that program, I'm in class and there's a test and I start to have some significant anxiety, I can't do that test in the classroom, I would have an option to go into the social emotional program to get the support that I need there. In addition to that, there are specific times during the day when kids are assigned to that room. So we have a class that's called personal development, which includes things like adaptive learning, life skills, group counseling type situations for kids. So, and that's every day, 7 times in the 7-day cycle. And then in addition to that, they have the academic component where they get a study skills class, which you know, is designed to do some pre-teaching, some review afterwards, allowing kids some time to get homework done in all reality. And that we would keep that component, and what the plan is, again, based on our population currently, we would like to make this a 7 through 12 academic program. So the teacher who is currently doing the 9 through 12 would pick up those students as well for that study skills class.
So, and then these students who are inclusion, they might have support in the classroom via a paraprofessional.
Correct.
Yeah.
So sometimes it varies a little bit because of scheduling, but you know, if the model were working perfectly, there would be a paraprofessional for 7th grade and a paraprofessional for 8th grade that would be in the classes with students. Sometimes, you know, based on some of the leveling that occurs, like in math class, you may have kids that are in different math class, so we have to cover that separately, so that the students aren't in a perfect cohort, if you will. They don't necessarily follow each other around because, again, it's an individualized program, so we want to make sure that the kids are getting the academic support that they need as well.
Okay, and how many students currently are in the MAPS program?
So it's a small population right now.
Okay.
So there's 4 students,
Oh, okay.
which is
Yes.
part of the reason
That's
that we're
right.
able
Yeah.
to do the 7 through 12 model for the academic component.
Well, that does really sound like an amazing setup with the clinical expertise of the site.
And, you know, when we look at trends, currently in Margaret School, in the elementary school, we have more students that are on the autism spectrum that will be moving into the middle school, as opposed to students that would typically be involved in our MAPS program. So the plan is that the position will shift a little bit and that clinical support will go towards our autism program for next year, because we do have a large number of students that will be moving from 6th to 7th grade.
So if that population of 4 in the MAPS program becomes 10, does that sort of tweak? And obviously you would adjust, but
Yes.
would the model still work if, let me ask it this way, is 4 in the MAPS program, is that a unusually low number, or is that kind of where?
It's a little bit lower.
Okay.
And part of that was, you know, and I'll take full responsibility for this, our cohort that moved up for this year from 6th to 7th, we didn't do the best placement, so we've moved some of our 7th graders that were originally in the social emotional program, have been transferred into our autism program, and some who have sort of graduated, if you will, and are more in the general special education program now from 7th grade. So the numbers have sort of naturally declined a little bit.
Okay.
And we can always have families who move in, who have kids that could need the program, but again, in looking at the projections over the next few years, there aren't a lot of students that are gonna require that level of support.
Got it.
And, you know, a lot of it depends upon who the students are, of course, you know, that one of the challenges with any social emotional program is that you have some students who the symptoms of that are that they act out and they're behavioral, and you have other students who have, you know, the same diagnoses, but they respond very differently, and it's more internal and results in anxiety and depression and those types of things. So, you know, we need to manage expertise in both of those areas for students, so, yeah.
So this gives us more flexibility.
So where does Christine sit? Where's her office?
So she's in both buildings.
Right.
At the Pembroke School, she's actually next to Margaret's office.
Oh, okay.
And then,
So when she moves,
so she has an office at the middle high school
Oh,
as
okay,
well,
so- okay.
which, when you go up the stairs, if you're heading to the library, there's an office sort of right near the stairwell there,
Oh.
and she's there. So she would stay there, but also there's a classroom that's designated for the social emotional program. So when she's testing, she'd be in her office, if you will, but the remainder of the day, she would be in the MAPS program.
okay. Well, it sounds like a lot of thought went into it.
We think so.
Yeah. I'm glad that it's budget neutral too.
Yeah, well, we do too.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, it had to be, really. I mean, you know, I mean, we're just looking for somebody, we think we've got a salary that we can, now, of course, this isn't a great time of year to be looking either, but you never know.
Yep. So when will you post it?
Tomorrow.
As soon as we, I mean, I don't know that we have to have you approve it, although it is technically, I guess, a new, yeah, it's kind of a new position, even though we have a psychologist position. And it basically does the same duty, so I think we put the posting in here, just so you could see. And
Yeah.
Jack made some adjustments based on, you know, the elementary level, but it's virtually the same program, but it wouldn't hurt to, you know, approve the establishment of a elementary school psychologist position. And then we just need to move we'll need to move the money at some point.
Okay, so both of these motions, the approval of the, Director of Student Services, is that Jack's
That's
title?
what we call Jack.
That's what we call
I thought it was Director of Special.
Most people call me Jack, actually.
Just Jack.
No, Jack, Student Services is a little broader. I mean,
Yeah.
even though Colin does have ELL, right? It's also, you know, he works with the nurses, Jack does the nurses, you know, does help with some guidance, support, so.
He's
It's
all
more
over
of a
the place.
student services concept.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the plan by Director of Student Services, Mr. Jack Tiano, to restructure the MAPS program.
So moved.
Second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And I'll make a motion to approve the,
Well, this one,
Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
sure, so this is
Okay.
approve the transfer of funds, basically from the middle school teaching line to establish an elementary psychology line in the budget for Pembroke. I mean, that's
Right,
the best
yeah.
I could do for a motion.
Do you need to do that?
Do we need to
Well,
do this, or would it just be captured in the
I would
next?
just do a transfer.
But you don't have you don't have a line for elementary school
Well, we have a
psychology.
district psychologist is where the current psychologist is.
Right.
Which
So
we
I
could-
don't know if we could
I
just
think we
can
can keep them in the same.
keep them in the same.
Oh, you wanna keep them in the
Keep
same
them
line?
in
Okay.
the special education budget,
Okay, that's fine with
as
me.
opposed to putting them in the schools.
okay, okay.
That's fine. So there will be a transfer though, because the teacher currently is in the.
Yes, we'll move.
Right.
Perfect, okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack. You guys can go. Hopefully it's not snowing out
Is
there.
it snowing?
I don't know.
It is.
Looks like it's going to coat the house.
Really?
Okay, let's wrap this up.
Yeah. You don't wanna be driving in the snow, right? Yeah. Good night. Drive safely.
Night.
You'll notice I did put the,
Yeah, thank God.
scholarships in
Yep.
there, yeah, the
Yeah.
Johnson
Bye.
Avenue and
Yeah.
scholarships.
Thank you though.
See you later.
And actually Chloe did send a text. So she said she, no, I think it was a, mix up in the day. Yeah, I think she came last week. I think
Oh, she
thought
did,
it was
oh,
last
okay,
week.
that's fine, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just know that, I wanted to ask her about the homecoming, but
Oh,
just
yeah.
what her take,
right.
but I heard it was a
Oh,
great
I
success.
heard it was
Oh,
wonderful.
yeah.
Everybody stayed to the
Yeah,
very
I know.
end. They
Yes,
said it
I
was
know.
one of the better ones.
Yes.
My
Yes,
kids
I
have
got very
always
good
said
feedback.
that homecoming is even better than frolic.
Yes.
And I think it's because it's not the, it's kind of laid back, and it's the whole school, and you don't have
They
to
all still
yeah.
get dressed up, I
Yeah,
mean,
but
to
not
a
to the point
degree,
that-
but
yeah.
not to
Facebook
a,
were amazing.
yes.
Yeah, no,
But
I
you're
heard
right.
great things about it, and,
Yes.
and I heard, Dan was there, and I think Guy was there, it just
Well,
seemed
it
like
was
there
right
was.
from the football game and then it went
Right
right to
over,
home.
yeah.
So it was a perfect mix of,
Yeah,
not the win, there was a loss,
I know, I
but.
was sorry to hear that, but, and,
Poor Chloe, she said, she tried to go to the meeting last week, but then realized we didn't have one. She thought the meeting would be next week, but that doesn't make sense because it's Thanksgiving. So she's,
Just
my biggest
striking out.
apologies here.
oh, that's okay.
Yeah, that's what I
She's
should.
crazy busy,
Yeah,
that's
she is
fine.
crazy busy.
No,
No, I'm so happy it went well, everybody was
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah, everybody's
Yeah.
happy.
when it finally happened, because this
Yes.
homecoming, I think we have to start thinking about homecoming like the first
Now.
week
Right
of school.
away, yeah.
I know, because it just
I
always
asked
seems
about
like
that,
there's
why
something
can't we just
wrong.
pick an early
should be.
football, I don't know what the history is though, so I.
Yeah, I don't either, I just know the last couple of years we've had,
And it's been
cancellations
canceled.
and.
But it was
And kids
canceled
love
because
it.
the person last year who was running it had a conflict, so.
Oh, right, I remember that.
But
And
was
then,
it,
you know,
was it
No.
earlier or was it around the same time? I can't
I
remember.
think this one was later, this year's was later.
This year's was later, yeah,
think so.
but it was still, they've
Yeah.
gotta just
I mean,
pick it
late
and stick
October
to
should-
it,
Yeah.
stop canceling it.
Yeah.
Whether there's a conflict or not, figure it out.
Yeah, we'll have
Yeah.
to, we'll have to ask about that.
But it was great, and then so school, first quarter ended,
Yes.
so we're
Yeah.
on to.
Conferences were yesterday.
Yeah, conferences were yesterday, and I saw a lot of people at the middle high school, which was great to see a lot of the parents there.
You know, it's,
Um,
I have to say again, this is one of the few districts that I know that do parent conferences at that level. So I think
I
it's
know.
Yeah.
great, it really is.
Well,
You
and
know,
to see
you'd
the
like
amount
to
of
have-
parents there.
Right, to see the amount of parents, the buy-in that the parents had, you know,
Yeah.
sort of welcoming them and showing,
Well, as the
discussing.
superintendent said, the partnership there,
It's
you
great.
know, between the parents and the schools, that's what we have we
Yeah.
have a combined interest in that. So you wonder if at the other schools that don't have it, is it just because they saw it waning and all of a sudden nobody was coming, you know? But
Yeah.
I think we have a very good,
Yeah,
Um,
we do. Parents must
turnout.
feel, parents and teachers must feel it's a value,
Yes.
or they wouldn't come. Because I think that's what happens in some places, it's like, you know, why bother?
Although I've seen other places that hold, you know, coffees and
Yep.
things in the morning and that fills up and it doesn't fill up at our place, so it's.
No,
Yeah,
it's
some
the,
works
it's the
in the-
mornings,
yeah.
yeah, no, yeah, coffees aren't successful at 9 in the morning.
Well, now, at the high school, do they make appointments, or
Yes.
is
We make
it?
appointments,
Yeah.
Scheduled online.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
but
It's one of my
sign up
pet peeves,
genius,
so
yeah.
don't even start me on that.
The what?
The what happened?
Just the timing of it, because if
Oh.
somebody's running over when
Oh,
during
yeah,
your
no,
time,
it's hard.
you're only allowed 10 minutes and
I
then
know,
it's,
I know,
you know,
that's
and
a
Yeah.
problem.
I really think there needs to be bells or something to get people in and out.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because two of my kids have the same teacher, so I block out 20 minutes
Yes.
to talk about. So I ran to that teacher, and I was there right, at
Right
1:10.
on time, right?
But someone else was in there, so I'm like, oh, she must be ending soon. Well, I got in there at 1:22.
It's just not right.
And the mom came out and she's like, oh, sorry. I'm like, oh, sorry, I have two kids that, But,
It's like, if you're gonna take that long, make an appointment.
Yeah.
See, that's
Yeah,
my
that's-
issue
yeah,
though,
they should-
Carol.
no, but
should,
I
It's
think
gotta
that Mr.
change.
Corbett did a great thing. Like, when ours was done, he got up and walked me to the door.
Yes.
Like, as we were
Yeah.
talking, but that was his way of saying, okay,
I
it's 10
set a
minutes off.
timer, I set 10 minutes, cause I wanna be respectful of people
Of
who,
course,
you know,
waiting.
behind me.
Yeah, because then it just,
Cause then it's that domino effect and then
Yeah.
you're screwed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's a good point, that's a good point, Suzanne, you know, people should just understand, if you really think it's gonna take long, or it takes longer than 10 minutes, then make
book
a,
it.
make a
But
time
honestly,
limit.
it's up to
Yeah.
the teacher to say, I'm really sorry, your time is up,
Yeah.
we can make an appointment, you know,
Yeah,
and
I
then,
know. Yeah, okay, I can.
sorry,
do that.
just,
No, it was
Well, I
great
can
though.
look into
I was
that.
happy to see all the,
I didn't realize it was a
all the,
problem, although I
parents there.
always was at the elementary level too, so I can certainly understand it.
I think 10 minutes is enough though.
it's plenty,
It
as
is.
long as you've got
The
the
teacher,
10
well,
minutes.
the teachers that I went to had everything there, they handed me it, the grades, and
So great.
10 minutes, it was great.
It really
Yeah,
is,
no,
it's
So I was
a
happy, yeah.
really good use of time.
Yes.
Okay,
Good.
I'm done with my little,
Well, that's
No,
okay,
it was
that's
good.
okay. I know, I did a
Um,
tweet about it, encouraging people to come.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep. Okay, financial report.
Financial report, all right, you wanna do that?
That looks so
I'm gonna use it.
dreary.
Weary.
I mean, it was a beautiful report.
very, very
Yeah,
well
yeah.
done.
I'm glad that you like the layout.
No, I love the way you put it.
The message
highlights.
was true.
Did I use enough,
Your highlights on the
numbers
front.
and
Yes.
reports and?
Thank you for, you know,
Yeah,
putting
no, I
that
know.
together, because that's
I
helpful.
hope it's helpful. I try to not put too much in, but get the point across, you know. Basically, the, operating account is not doing well because of special ed.
Yeah.
So we have had, you know, especially this one child recently that was placed by, DCF, yeah,
Mhm.
DCF. So I know I get the acronyms messed up. So it's really put us over, you know, about $135,000. So I definitely foresee a freeze coming. Jack's also concerned, Mr. Tiano's also concerned about two other students that he is gonna go to litigation with, so
Yeah.
that could be $25,000 to $30,000 each. So,
So that would bring it up to like 200.
And two, we put in 90-something thousand dollars, we prepaid last year, so that 130 is really 220.
right, and we prepaid 92 but we also got, there's three kids right now that were not budgeted for
Right.
last year. So we have two new kids, which kind of the 92
Kind of offset.
gave it a li- yeah, offset it a little bit.
So two we knew about, two was in our district and two are new? I mean, one,
No, we have three new. We have two new ones that weren't that weren't considered in the budget
Okay.
last year.
okay.
And then the new DCF one is the third.
Right.
But then there's two others on the radar that
Right.
he's going to litigation. So there could be 5 new.
But those two other new, besides the DCF one,
Yes.
those students were in district prior to.
Yes. Right. Yes. Yeah. So we really don't know what's going to happen with those two this year. That could just impact next year, really. But it also could impact the legal budget for sure. Depending on.
But all in, that could be a $285,000
It could be.
overspend.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's not a small number.
And we did, I looked into the, they have the, that special ed, special.
Extraordinary.
Yeah,
Thank you,
extraordinary,
Michael. Extraordinary relief, but it is like 25% over your cost, so it still wouldn't bring us there.
Right.
I think we need about 350,000 over, so.
And we
I
don't
mean,
know that.
although it's-
Try to hit that.
No, yeah,
I was gonna say, is there anyone else that
although
maybe
it's-
we could think of to, I mean, wow, that's,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
so,
lot.
so budget and finance, what's going, like, what are you
It
thinking?
wasn't even a meeting.
No.
It's a freeze.
And that's you and Cheryl?
Yeah.
Yeah, how are you liking budget and finance?
I like it a lot.
Yeah, good,
I do.
yeah, it's a lot of
I do.
Just
information.
catching on quick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, so you don't have any,
Things are getting chilly.
yeah,
Yeah, we're-
definitely,
yeah.
we have an admin team meeting next week, so
Tuesday.
happy Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So,
And I did wanna ask you something about, I don't know, are you gonna go through each of these? Okay.
I can, if you want me to, yeah, or if you just wanna ask me questions, or.
Well, I wanted to ask about the athletic fees for the fall.
Okay,
So 4 families are outstanding, and I'm questioning how can they be outstanding when they're supposed to not be able to,
well, they
Right.
can't,
they can't register for
They
the,
can't
for
register
the
for
winter.
the winter.
But some people don't play sports in the winter.
Right,
Oh,
but
right.
I thought you
Some
had to have, well, with the installment,
That's
Some
right,
people
that's
are
right.
on
A
installment
lot of
plans.
times people,
do you know
it's
if
the
these
last
4
installment.
were in
I
installments?
do know that, I think at least 3 of them were. I think we have one family that she's tried to work with, and she's actually pushed them onto me, so I will be
Yeah,
handling that.
because
but-
that's in the, like, the athletic, the
The athletic revolving?
no, in the
Handbook?
athletic
Oh,
handbook,
in the handbook,
that
yes.
they're not supposed to be able to practice
Right.
until, like,
Yeah, they're not supposed to be able to
unless
do
they
anything.
have like an installment, obviously they can
Right.
practice with that first installment being paid, but if they don't have it an agreed upon installment,
Yeah,
they're
I
not supposed to
think,
practice.
like I said, I think 3 of them, it was the last payment, but
That's
she, said that, they're
One,
they're
yeah,
not
once you
gonna
tried to
pay.
work.
But the family that hasn't paid, I believe they don't play a December, or
Right,
winter
so
sport.
they feel like they're gonna have a whole
So,
season of
unfortunately,
sports
they
to
have to-
hold off paying.
Yeah.
That happens to us a lot
It does.
in the spring,
Right, and then
in the
we
spring.
have the whole
And then
summer.
that's right.
And it's all,
Or
and it's
if
the
they're
last
seniors, then-
installment.
Yeah.
But what we've said is, if you get a shot at it, right, we need you to pay up. But if you do it, again, you don't get to do installments. You have to pay the whole amount,
Pay the-
so you get
It's
one
just
shot.
unfortunate because, you
Oh,
want the
it's-
kids to play.
Of
course,
Yeah.
of course.
Of course,
You
yeah,
know?
and we try to,
Be
do
as-
our best to,
yeah.
whatever is, will work for them, but they have to
I
get
mean,
it paid.
Cheryl's doing an amazing
Sure.
job. We used to have a lot more issue with, with
last
collections.
year we had like no issues
No
at all with
issues.
that.
And I mean, this is,
No, well,
First time.
Cheryl's awesome because when you are on an installment, like she'll email a couple of days before to
Yes.
say, no, the second installment is due, or,
Right.
because the installment
Yeah,
option
no, she's
is
been
great, and
great.
we've talked about our fees and the amount of them, you have to, give the parents.
work with them.
Sure.
Right, absolutely.
I mean, we just, she's gonna talk about the preschool. I mean,
Yeah.
we had a couple
yeah.
situations there, and
Yeah.
we have set up a different process for those people, and, it's been great, so you just have to understand that some people, they get behind, and it's not that they don't wanna pay, right? And, but we have said, if you don't pay by a certain time, you can't return.
Yeah,
Knowing we have like a month in advance, so we have sort of that month. But, people will, I do believe that the people we're working with are very
think so.
serious about
I'm
it, and,
hopeful.
one guy comes in every single
Yeah,
Monday
he does.
with
He's been very
with
good.
his agreement, and,
Good.
so, I just think, sometimes the fees do get ahead of you.
Mm.
So preschool can be expensive,
Preschool
Yeah.
can be very expensive.
So out of the 4 athletic, 3 are almost paid.
Almost
Almost
paid, yes, it
And
was
one
just
hasn't paid
at all, yeah.
at all. And has that player been playing?
I believe so.
But that player won't be allowed to
Yeah,
register
to
for
register.
for another season. And we will do what we do, which is contact, now it kicks up to Suzanne's
right.
level. And, again, I'm a little, I don't know why they got to play as long as they got to play if they didn't even give one installment, but again, it's a circumstance that I just don't know about,
Mhm.
so
Right.
for the future,
Well,
that
I
might
think
be.
it was a different circumstance with this family as well.
Yeah,
so-
it could be, so we'll get to the
Yeah.
bottom of it, if we have
We will.
one or two situations, we can work with those.
And these
Yeah.
scholarships are free and reduced?
Yes,
Yes.
those are the
Okay.
scholarships for the fall. Mhm.
Do you ever get other requests for scholarships that they don't fall within that free and reduced, that
I
people
do,
can?
yes.
And how do you go about like
I offer
approving
them a
that?
payment
Payment
plan.
plan.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a
So it's not a
scholarship.
scholarship.
It's not a scholarship.
no.
I mean,
Because
if
then
they,
how do you,
I-
how do you
right.
determine?
Right, right.
I do get several, actually, but,
Okay.
and, and I just try to work with them to do
Right.
what they can do.
So you go beyond that normal 3-month, that
Right.
3 installment and do,
Right,
Right.
right,
Yeah.
cause it could be anything, it could be a field trip, it could be, like a senior celebration type thing, or, something that's going on with the school.
Mhm. Well, I
And
am
the
glad to hear
parent
that
just get-
parents will reach out to you.
Yeah, well, I
You know.
think that they, the schools tell them to.
Yeah,
And,
good.
I just tell them, really, other than Camp Kiev, we don't offer, scholarships.
Yeah, like free,
Free.
yeah. But you'll work with them.
And that's the
Okay.
only guideline.
We work with them, but we do put a written agreement together
Mhm.
that I sign that basically says, this is what you're agreeing to do. So it just gives it a little bit more.
Little,
Sure.
Not
No, it's
terrible.
you put you're signing it,
Yeah.
which means you're making more than a commitment on the telephone. Oh, yeah, I'll pay you, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Okay, but you said, listen, and remember, we said, what's the consequence? What are we gonna agree on as the consequence if it doesn't happen, and people, I'd rather they, take 3 months to pay it and pay it
Right.
than, have to kick them out and then you get nowhere.
Yeah, then you get nothing.
And the kid doesn't get the service.
Well,
so.
yeah, right.
At the end of the day, it's really about the kids. We have to not, we have to not forget that.
I have 2 questions on the athletics. One is are the revenues tracking what we expected them? Is our fall total revenue in line with what we were expecting?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then my other question was on the actual fundraiser donation revenue. The October,
They got like a large,
was that like a large gift or something?
no, it was a
Or-
large fundraiser.
Okay.
And I forget which sport,
Oh,
it
is
was
that
a sport
the-
fundraiser. I wanna say maybe field hockey.
Okay.
But one of them did a very large,
Field hockey did do a fundraiser.
Just because and I realize that the fundraising line is a totally different
Yes.
animal. But if we're
But it's
budgeting
really high.
$12,000 essentially for the year, and we're already at 23,
right,
it's an interesting,
Mhm.
it caught my eye.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
why, we did have a big one.
Okay, okay.
So I don't know if that was an anomaly or whether they just raised
Well, that's
a
good.
real lot of
But
money
even,
this
even
time.
just between August and September, we hit our annual
I know,
goal, our
Right,
annual
yeah.
budget.
right.
So the rest of the year's
Ryan did email me today and tell me that
Well, they spent it.
he's a little worried about the girls' basketball program and the numbers.
Mhm.
At the high school or middle school?
But
Or all?
I think he feels that the high school and the varsity numbers are gonna be okay, but anything, from JV down to
Mm.
middle school freshmen, he said the numbers are very low.
That's
So I
also
said, well,
fear
you gotta
for-
do a little recruitment, and I said, who are your captains, see if the captains, can sort of get things going. I mean, I don't know why the numbers would be low, since I know GAA has a pretty solid basketball feeder program, but.
Well, I do know, because Suzanne and I have children in 11th grade, boys, but I do know that the 11th grade girls are, there are some cheer, but they don't,
Well, there was some
it's,
cheer, yeah.
it's not,
That's it, they don't participate in.
yeah, they really didn't do athletics, like sport, they might do
So
dance or things
might
like
be
that.
what's- That might be what's
So that could
happening.
be,
Yeah.
because that whole class, if they don't, because I know when they were in middle school, the same thing happened.
Right,
With
there's very low
basketball.
participation at that grade, so each grade level.
So maybe it's just the grade, maybe it's just that,
Enough.
yeah.
Yeah,
Enough.
and unfortunately for the price of
Yeah.
the user fee, it isn't like the like $100 or $125 at GAA, that's one
Right.
thing, but when it's $475 to just go and play with your friends, it could be a little more like, no.
Right, but I think
We
he's
offer a
worried
sale.
about whether or not, I think he's worried about whether or not
We can
Yeah.
offer it for
Yeah,
two
that would be a
teams.
bummer. So I said, we'll just keep, we'll just keep looking at it, but I said, talk it up, put it on the morning announcements,
Yeah.
whatever you have to do.
And it's busy, people are busy right now, with Thanksgiving next
I know.
Thursday, like it
I
kind of
know.
just came up
It did.
so quick
It's early.
that I haven't even
Crazy,
gotten my
crazy.
winter sports thing, I mean, I've told Ryan, so
Mhm.
but it's just been crazy, so
Mhm. Hopefully that's it, that people are just gonna register a little
yeah,
eager.
because I would hate
and-
to not,
Yeah, me
be
too.
able to field a team.
I know, and wrestling's down a little bit too, so
And
that's
we
why
do so well
the
in
reason I'm mentioning it.
last year we did
well,
really
it's-
good.
it- Yeah, cause I'm a little worried about the
Winter.
winter.
So
But-
when do we decide to co-op? Like when we don't have
Well,
numbers
wrestling
anymore?
is a co-op.
Like
Yeah,
Wrestling
wrestling
is
is.
wrestling is a co-op, but
Well, you can't co-op if you have enough kids to have a
right, but
program.
I'm saying like how far in advance do you have to know, oh, we're not gonna have enough, we
Yeah.
need to co-op.
Well, I think, you can see if the trend, we can have an idea. This is the first time I've seen the basketball numbers be this low, but we haven't had huge numbers for girls' basketball in the last several years, but enough to run a team. So, usually in a co-op, if you get into a co-op, it's 2-year commitment. So you have to watch that too, because if, you're down 1 year, but the next year
Yeah, you're
it goes
fine.
back up,
Yeah,
then
but-
you're in a situation, so he's not talking to me about co-oping at this point. And I think
I
it's
can't
too, I
imagine
think
he'd
it's
be,
too,
yeah, it's too
and I
late.
think it's too late to
Right,
start.
but that's
you
what
know,
I'm,
you
what
have-
I'm saying
yeah,
is like,
it's in advance.
how far, you know,
Probably.
Right, like, so winter.
Do you know what I mean?
So like for winter
Just do like a
sports,
year
would you
out.
have to ask like in September, okay,
Right.
do you plan
We can
on this
ask Brian
because
when
we
he
need
comes
to.
next
yeah,
week.
I'm just curious,
Because we
because
need
like, you know, you need to do a little bit of that backpedaling to make sure, okay, these kids wanna
Yeah.
play, we need to co-op somewhere,
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
absolutely. Yeah.
You need to know in advance
You do.
in order to get
You
in
know, I
with
mean,
other.
you know, he was talking to me about, you know, maybe, which I said to him, be careful where you step your toe, Brian, because, you know, he said, well, maybe, you know, middle school sports is, you know, we don't have enough kids to, you know, be really doing a middle school.
Because only 7 and 8.
basket. Yeah.
Right.
So I said, well,
Oh,
you
I
know,
hope not.
that's gonna be a tough sell. We really gotta think about that very carefully, because that is your feeder program. You know, if everybody else in the league decided that they weren't gonna do it and we only had one other team that we could play against, well, then that kinda makes it a little easier, but
Well, I do know in middle school you do play
The
the
same
same
team
teams,
over
like,
and over
it's
3 or 4
Manchester
times.
Essex like 4 times, and it's Ipswich 3 times, yeah.
I know.
But I would hate
But you
for
get to
that.
play, but you
not-
get to play for
yeah,
your school, you
I
know?
hate to see that.
So, because the sixth grade is at Pembroke, they cannot participate on
Right.
middle school.
Separate principals.
Okay, so, and I also saw that there's a middle school hockey team, is that?
Boys, I don't know. I don't know about that. That's something I've heard. I mean, unless the 2 we co-op with allow that.
Well,
We're Pentucket for the boys and
Right.
Painsville for the
I
girls.
and again, it's on Facebook, it must be right.
Yeah.
There was a the kids were wearing Georgetown, and it was said a middle school team, but I did notice there were kids on there that were like 5th and 6th graders.
Well, it must, maybe it's, I don't know if GAA has anything like that, but we have.
Yeah, or maybe it's
GAA
a
doesn't
separate
have-
fund, like
Or
a
maybe
separate
it's, maybe it's a
program.
club.
Yeah, maybe it's
don't know.
club, because I can't think of.
That's interesting, Cheryl, because I've never heard of
So
that.
it must be.
Yeah.
It's nothing we're.
Because you don't see any, yeah,
No.
there's nothing.
We don't collect
No,
it.
I think it's a
Okay,
club.
So something else.
Okay. In the past.
Okay, it's on Facebook, it must be.
So the food services.
The food services is, we had a little rough beginning, I guess,
Yeah.
at the middle high. Not too bad, but just, just not what we had seen last year. I don't know, it may be because of the price increase, we've had some staffing trouble,
Have we
over at
been
the
able
middle high.
to resolve that
We
staffing
haven't,
trouble? No.
he did interview 2
Oh, okay.
people this last week, he had one that he really liked, but the money wasn't there for him,
Yeah, the
and then
money
the
is the
second one, I think the money is gonna be the problem this
So this
year.
is for the head cook,
This is for the head,
Head chef.
the
Cook manager.
cook manager.
and that's what, and Sean has been doing that position?
Well,
No,
he's been
no,
doing it with a sub.
well, he's been, no,
The cook manager.
the cook manager, the
Oh, the-
assistant has moved up to that
Right.
position, but she doesn't want that position.
Oh, okay.
And so we've had to hire subs to come in to kind of fill in.
Cover-
Sean's been
to
over
cover
there
hers.
as well.
And Sean goes over as often as he
Yeah,
can.
he's been in the kitchen
But,
as well.
you know,
He has.
a cook manager is really important because they're the ones that, really generate the excitement in the kitchen. They work with the staff, they can go connect with the kids, connect with the teachers, and
Yeah.
we just haven't had success. We had an open position, not for cook manager, open position at Pembroke, and we did fill that.
Yes, because we were down one cafe worker at Pembroke, but we just filled that. She just started last week, so.
Right,
How
so
is the cafe doing at the middle high school?
it's not
going
generating
through,
much.
yeah, coffee shop.
It's not doing much. It's not doing much in the morning. He's having trouble getting people to come in.
I mean, trying to figure out a creative solution to, looking at our internship programs and, is there a way to get a couple of, interns, kids that, can work it, kids sometimes motivate other kids to come. The challenge is we're trying to keep it, we would like to keep it open all day. So we have to figure out a solution to that,
And to
whether
staff
it's
it.
like they do at Danvers where they, have the little coffee pots that, you help yourself and
Yeah,
then
like penny
you would
hour,
walk
too.
over and pay the cashier, you know, something like that, we're trying to figure out some kind of solutions that doesn't require us to physically put somebody over there. I know Sean has
Well, I
talked
mean, he
about.
does have somebody over there before school.
In the morning.
Yeah.
No, but I'm
that
talking about if you did it
Right.
throughout the course of the
Right.
day.
I
Like if
know,
you go to
we've
Danvers,
talked about a million
it's
different-
open all day long, so.
And then the kids,
Right.
if it's open all day long, so the kids will stop like in between
They
lunch?
could. They
I mean, in
could.
between classes, they have enough
They could.
time to do
Mhm,
that?
They could. Right, so they,
Possibly, yeah,
If they're over on that side of the building.
right. I mean, it would be tough for the
I mean, we've talked
third
about
floor,
putting a little
second floor
satellite
to come down.
in the library. Like.
I
The
guess,
the
yeah.
roving coffee cart.
Yeah.
Well, but, I mean, if the kids are in the second and third floor,
Right.
it's easier to get to the library than it is to.
And the
down to
teachers
con-
don't use it?
By the time the teachers go all the way downstairs, I think they're out of time too.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the teachers using it a lot. But again, I don't know that we've done, that's why, Sean's gotta sort of see if he can do a little more recognizance, like why? Like what would it take for you to use it? I mean, I think there has to be a little bit more.
He has there's a student survey going out via email next Monday and Tuesday. He set it up with Ben, and
And how's he gonna get them to respond? Is it gonna be like an A
he's
block?
putting it in the morning announcements and putting signs up.
But they're not gonna be a
and-
lot, because they're still, unless they're allotted the time, then
Yeah.
you're not gonna get
We
much.
used to do it, like,
We
for
already
one
figured it out,
period or
remember with the
something.
start school later?
Yeah, you're right.
And we allowed, we didn't allot them the time, so they didn't do it, and then we did it at lunch.
That's
So
what
like,
Guy did
okay.
last year, or whatever.
And then we got
Somebody did.
we got the
So
participation.
maybe he can get Guy to help him do it during lunch.
Yeah, I mean,
All right,
even,
everybody get out your phone.
or even in the A block class. I mean, how long would it take?
Well, we can,
You know,
we can
20
ask him to.
I can definitely
Yeah.
answer
Because we
that,
need to
yeah.
know, like, from the customers,
No, I
what is
know, I
going
mean, I
on.
definitely was pushing for him to get this out before
Because then
the
how do
holidays.
you determine, like, the inventory, and is the inventory gonna go bad, and then we're losing money on that? It's just, we gotta
Yeah.
get to the
No, I
bottom
know,
of it, cause
I
it's
know.
it's a great little place, I mean, it looks
It is
great.
awesome.
And I certainly see, well, I don't drop my kids off anymore, so I can't say like every day, but occasionally I do. And Dunkin' Donuts is still
I know.
bringing in the
They're
kids.
still
Still packed with kids. I just,
And
Yeah,
maybe
it's-
more so now because you can do that ordering
Yeah,
online.
yeah.
So it's all
Oh,
ready,
yeah, I'm sure that's a factor too.
you know?
You could just go in and.
Well, I think during the day though, the geography of where it is
Oh, yeah.
is a huge
Yeah.
factor.
It is a factor, I agree 100%.
Especially now with the
With the
doors,
door.
with the security.
Right.
Because they're doing the same thing like in Danvers, but there's no Dunkin' Donuts around the corner. There's no
Right.
Honeydew across the street.
Yeah, it's very
So
far.
that makes a
it-
big
you know,
difference.
Right, so, if you come to school, you're grabbing your bagel there, you're grabbing, it's different. I think that is a factor, there's no doubt about
No,
that.
for sure.
And then you wonder about like Ipswich, where they're situated, or the new Beverly Middle School where they're situated, because Beverly Middle School is directly across the street from a Dairy Queen.
Oh,
And that place gets unbelievable business after school, and then Ipswich is right down the street from like Pomodori and a Dairy Queen, another one, right up the street, so they probably don't have a need for that too. But you're right, Danvers doesn't have anything
No,
within
they
walking
don't.
distance,
no,
so.
so I
that's-
think that's a factor
Yeah.
or
for sure.
Masco, so I'm sure it works at Masco as
Yeah.
well, because
Right,
there's nothing
True.
there,
Nope.
There's nothing, yeah.
Right.
so.
yeah.
Well, we
So
aren't,
still,
we
yeah,
aren't
we're
giving
not
up, we're
giving
not
up,
out of
no, we're not
strategies.
giving up.
Well, it's too
Yeah.
bad that like the franchise couldn't come
Yeah.
in.
I know,
Oh,
right?
Paul Schwinn and I used to talk about that all the time, he wanted to set up a, little franchise up in the library.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well,
Certainly a conversation for Sean, but the participation
Yeah.
at the middle high school is fair, population is up and the ADP is back to where it was essentially 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm,
which is,
For the start of the year, yeah.
yep.
But again, we have to find, we really gotta find out why.
Find out why, right.
but yeah, so it's not just a coffee shop.
Right.
No,
Question,
yeah,
it's a-
No, and I'm wondering if
No,
Sean
when we were
has
talking
any.
about it, like, maybe the price increase had an impact, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, but I'd be
maybe-
curious to see what's selling, what's not selling,
Right.
right? So, is the
Well,
panini thing still the
Right.
big seller?
Right, well, I think it is, but, again, he said, but last year we had bacon every day and now we don't. and the kids are coming up to him and saying,
Where's the
"Where's the
bacon?"
bacon?"
Right.
You know? So,
Exactly.
so,
Yeah, no.
you know,
that's
it
Yeah.
makes a difference for them if they can't, you
Get
know,
exactly what
want.
they want.
get
Yeah.
exactly what they want, but he had to, you know, cut back a little bit on all that, you know, specialty,
Right.
expensive, more.
But I'd like to hear if that's the issue from the
Right.
kids.
Right. Well,
And then you know
hopefully
what,
we'll
if it
find out
is,
more.
then
Bring the
maybe you
bacon.
go up 10 cents on it, you know, I mean, you know what I mean?
Or you bring the bacon back and
Or you
take
bring the
something else
bacon
out.
back and take something
Right,
else out, right?
Yeah, so.
But at Pembroke, the participation is up
Yes,
even over last year,
yeah,
Yeah.
which is good, obviously.
yes.
You know, my little kids love to buy lunch, but bigger kids don't eat lunch.
Right.
You know, they can go without. That's what I
It is a
see
different-
in our school.
Yeah, they can,
A lot
yeah.
of kids don't eat
Or,
lunch.
you know, I can tell you that my son, who normally doesn't buy lunch, does this year, and he just doesn't think it's enough.
That's
Oh,
a big-
interesting.
No, we've been hearing that for years.
Well,
That,
that's
like,
the
you know, you
guidelines,
get-
I mean,
I know, but you
No, I
get.
know.
yeah,
Once
but-
you get to the
but here's
11th and
what-
12th grade,
I
yeah.
But here's what always didn't make sense to me.
Might buy 2 lunches sometimes.
Is- Okay, so we give them, I get it, the guidelines are the
Yeah.
guidelines. So let's say it's 5 chicken nuggets this big, right?
Yeah.
Which, that's an appetizer for them. But we sell them 2 and 3 lunches. So in the end, they're eating 15 chicken nuggets,
So there
but
goes
they're
the-
paying triple
there
the
goes
price.
the
So that's
guidelines.
never made sense to me. It's kind of like, I know we're trying to meet the guidelines, and the guidelines are good. They're trying to say, you know, watch and control your fats and all that kind of stuff, but yet,
We let
they
them buy
still,
more
they
than one
still
lunch.
buy more than one lunch, so
We
it's
only
like,
get.
Is that
we
second or
only
third
get-
meal is not
yeah, we-
reimbursable?
No, it's not.
it's
Yeah.
not reimbursable, but
And we're breaking even on, if even,
Yeah.
on that second or third meal.
Exactly.
right, but the kids are still eating 10
Right.
nuggets. So I get it, that we- you know, the whole intention and spirit of the regulations, and we do have to do it,
Right, we do have to do it.
but
I just still wonder, like, the, you know, the quality, I know,
that's what they say, it's not
yeah,
enough-
I
it's
know,
not
like,
enough
people
food.
will say to me, like, or the kids will say, you know, oh, the, you know, cold cuts just aren't like what I have at home, and I get it, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's
But
very
it's
expensive.
not, you know, the boar's head,
not a
and,
boar's head.
and it does, it's a little, there's a
Makes
lot
a
of
difference.
fillers in
Does
that.
make a difference.
And then if, I'm trying to think of what else
Well,
I've
they have
heard,
more
but it's,
sophisticated palate, you know, I think a lot of the
Yeah.
older kids. They do, they like
They
what they
do,
like
yeah.
and they, you know,
But what we did see in some of the other places is that there was a differentiated price, and we had this
well, we
conversation with
talked
Sean.
about that, yeah.
Which is, you know, so if you want the specialty lunch or the boar's head cold cuts, you pay a little bit more for it. You're still gonna be less than what you pay when you go to McDonald's for a meal deal. I mean, those are $7 and $8 for,
yeah,
you know.
McDonald's isn't cheap
Isn't-
anymore.
None of,
like it
none of
used
those,
to be.
and the quality of the food is much better, but so, again, that's what I'm trying to get at. I always thought that was an interesting idea, because there, you had the sense that if you wanted something that was a slightly higher, you know, cut, you know, you knew you were gonna pay a little bit more for it, but you were gonna get that quality.
Well, and it's the value to cost.
Exactly,
In mental calculation, it's,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And you talk about like, the US being so high in the obesity rate for children, and I saw an interesting, article the other day that had a picture of like a large fry at McDonald's, which is $1, and then they say, but then this fruit cup is $5.99. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Right,
that's what, you know,
the price is encouraged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Everything that's good for you is more expensive.
is more expensive.
It's true,
That's
and,
true.
you know,
No,
yeah,
it's
the
very
grocery
true.
store, fruits and vegetables, they're
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay, so we, work in progress, we need to
Yeah.
keep,
We are
we're
working
trying-
at it.
we're trying to
Yeah.
figure out what the.
Can we bring Sean in? at
Yeah,
some
he's
point?
coming in
Oh,
December.
what-
He's
is
coming
it
in
Dec-
December.
December.
Yeah.
Is it the 13th?
I
too?
think so,
Well,
yeah.
remember,
we-
December, we had 2 meetings, we haven't decided whether we're having the second one, so.
Because it's the 22nd.
Yes, so, I mean, unless you
Oh, I
wanna
thought we
move it
did.
up earlier that week, you know what I mean, you could have a meeting earlier that week,
It's
and
the
then we could
20th.
build.
It's the 20th.
Didn't we change, didn't
We
we
didn't
talk about
we-
this
we
last
took-
time? What is it?
It's on our, it's on our little, list of
I think we did talk.
topics.
We did, yeah.
So
So
it's supposed to
December,
be the
20th.
20th.
Yeah, so it's the
13th and
13th and the 20th, but we were saying, if we didn't wanna do the 20th, cause it's like the day before the last day of school or whatever, is there another day that people might be able to do it
I
that week?
wonder if
you
that
want?
Monday, the 17th, because the 18th is the chorus concert.
Right, that's a busy week.
I wonder
but-
if we could change it to maybe the 17th. Does-
17th looks fine to me.
You mean the,
Instead of the 20th.
yeah, okay.
Nancy, what about you?
I would have to check the schedule here to see if there are any rooms available.
That's right.
But in terms of you, does that work
Personally.
for you?
Oh, what, I do what you tell me to do.
Oh,
Good
there you
answer.
go.
Wow, I like that.
Oh, thank you.
So let's try for that, if you don't mind.
17th?
17.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I just think it would be easier.
So
Do
then
you
we
guys
can,
agree?
then we, I
Yeah,
don't,
I do.
and so then maybe we can, you and I can talk about if you, what we might wanna shift, because I don't think we built anything into the 22nd, just
The
20th, just assuming we might not be meeting,
Just have a-
so we might
Yeah,
just
so
need
if
to
that
shift.
13th
Yeah.
looks busy, we
Yeah,
can shift.
exactly, yep,
Okay.
okay, so we're gonna put that in there and,
The selectmen are in the,
Yeah, the big room,
yeah.
so we can be here.
oh, that's right, the selectmen.
Oh, yeah, they
What do you
do
have, the
that.
online, is that how you book it online? I think it would be beneficial to do it here.
All right, let's do it, so that's,
On that day.
So we can decide
That's
which
the
night you
17th.
want Sean and then
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll figure
we'll
that
figure
out.
it out.
Okay.
So we're gonna.
I did already mention to him that he would be going, so.
Yeah, because we need to, and hopefully we'll have a solution to that.
My last finance question, just because preschool,
School, yeah.
We get a meeting coming up.
we were, I guess we're looking, and I know we're watching it obviously, but are we 10 worse than, because I thought we were essentially going to zero out the carryover?
Well, we were actually kind of in the red at the beginning of this year from last summer. What we had as a balance, as a carryover,
Got it.
was less than what we needed.
What we budgeted.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, what we needed to cover the summer pays. So that kind of put us,
Right, but I remember, but that wasn't captured when we budgeted. So I remember the end of the year being just about zero. I forget which side of zero
yes,
it was.
yeah.
Not a -10.
Okay.
So either the carryover from last year was worse than we expected, or this
And
year was a
be,
little
and
bit
I
worse
think
than we
also
expected.
that at-risk revenue probably affected that
I
as well.
love that line, by the
You
way.
like that
Thank
line,
you.
I know, I put that in just for you.
Aw.
Give your
Well, at your
line.
request. But I believe that probably the combination of those two, cause I think I wanna say it was around 7.
Okay. That gets you to 10. Okay. I was thinking it was closer to a 0, but
So we
That could be all.
have a meeting coming up just to talk about
Well,
this
because you
because.
can look at the, I'm sorry,
Go, no,
excuse
go
me.
ahead, I'm sorry.
The July and August pays would have been the summer pays, so that's, where am I? The 33 and the 22,
mhm.
so that's 55, and we only carried over 50.
50
know what
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
saying?
so that's a -5 right there.
So that, I
Yeah.
think that's where the
That's how, yeah.
difference.
Okay.
And that is with our next summer pays are included in that, I built them into this.
That's the 92.
Yes,
Buck,
so
right.
that's
Which
exactly.
is helpful you
So
built
it's
it
kind
in,
of
so.
be rolling over the same, almost the same.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think we are concerned about the preschool.
It's
I mean,
still
we're
weird to
gonna-
me
we're
that we
gonna
pay for
have
next
a-
year with this year.
We're
Yeah,
gonna
that's
have
very
a
confusing to me.
meeting, we're gonna have a meeting coming up.
Next
But,
week?
yeah, but we're trying to figure out like what does the projection look like,
It's
you know,
gotta be
for next
marketing, I
year.
think it really,
Yeah,
really
you know,
needs to
I
be
think it's
marketing.
more than marketing.
But the,
I
but the
mean,
problem is we reduced a class,
I know.
so even if we market like crazy,
Yeah.
we're gonna break even if we have to add
Yeah,
another
you have to add the
class.
teacher back, yeah, it's,
Right, oh,
it's,
I see
yeah.
what
Or, you know,
you're saying.
wherever
Right,
that math
right,
works
Right,
out.
Yeah,
right,
yeah, yeah.
exactly, like
So-
how many children can we take before we
Without
have to add?
adding a teacher.
Sure.
And we have to have room for the special needs.
Right, so that's why we wanna have a
Yeah.
meeting, just to look at the numbers
Yeah.
and, you know, but, you know, I mean, I just don't know how, cause it's gonna increase in cost, because we know what the raises are gonna be.
Right.
Even if we don't, you know,
Yeah.
everybody, the raises
Are
are.
we, and I think we've asked this question before, but what is our cost compared to other?
No, we actually did that
Mhm.
information, got that information last year, and we actually increased the tuition by 5%. if I remember correctly, we were competitive at the 5-day-a-week, but not competitive at the 2 and 3. So
Yeah.
we upped everything 5%. We did talk about, we might have to do it another 5%,
Yeah,
but you know,
we did
you are,
talk about
it
that
is
last year.
expensive now.
I remember
You- there-
talking about it, but.
There is a tipping point
Yeah.
where
we did it 2
people are,
years in a row.
I think we're
Right,
sort of.
yeah.
Well, and the
Keep
problem,
being,
the challenge that we have is that with our salary increases, we need a 5% every year,
Right,
plus or minus, just to keep pace.
Just to keep pace, right.
And
Yeah.
not everyone is doing that.
No.
Right.
Well, and we can't do it, people won't be able to come to our
Right.
program. So it's a challenge, I mean, I'm worried about it, actually.
Mhm.
I don't,
Well, that's
I mean, if we reduce another class, see, because if you do just an integrated preschool program, you need basically 2 classes. You split the special ed students that qualify for a program, and you allow typical, one more typical child than the number of special ed kids. But we tend to, we're also doing it for the town.
Right.
If we reduce a position, we're gonna, the town, there's just gonna be fewer positions, fewer spots for kids to come.
Right.
I mean, that's the reality of the
You're
situation.
gonna cut out another 25 seats or whatever that number is.
Right.
and- Yeah.
But to go down from like 84 seats to 25, and it's just getting to the point where it's gonna be tough. It's really gonna compromise the integrity of the program. And the public just needs to know that that's why we would be reducing.
Mhm.
And what are we required by law to do?
Just a integrated preschool, so you have to provide for the students that qualify.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we have pretty
Mhm.
much, universal preschool, although people pay, as opposed to, it's all free for everybody.
And the math worked for a while, for a long time.
Well, I think the math worked for a long time, but I think the other thing is the preschool program was often offset by a lot of grant money. When
Yeah.
Janet Art was here, I think she had like $300,000 in grant funds. And, over
Amazing.
time, at one point, the state had these community partnerships, grants that were pretty significant that, helped with some tuition,
But that was when we had like 190
When our total
enrolled.
budget is 480, 300 is a pretty
Yeah.
significant impact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then, Janet left, the grants sort of dried up, the state funding for preschool sort of, diminished a lot, and, then we put expenses on that we never had to put on before, like the nurse was not on there, secretary was not on there, custodian was not on there. If you, as we said this last year, we took about $120,000 off.
And yet,
And yet, we
Saved
we
20.
lost 40 kids.
Yeah.
If we had kept our enrollment, or just lost enough so you could have reduced one and still not had the enrollments be too unbalanced, but it didn't happen that way. So I think we're all a little worried about the long term, so we've gotta come up with some kind of strategy. So I figured it better to meet earlier than later. Figure out what questions we have to, what we have to do, including marketing as one of the strategies. But,
but the tricky thing is if you get
yeah.
enough
Yeah, you have to add.
students that you have to add, but the
Yeah, right.
economics don't work to actually add that,
Yeah, but
then what do you do? Then it's a lottery,
Well, I
which
think,
like,
we
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
have to figure out, sort of what that addition would cost,
Right.
and then how much revenue you would generate to bring it in, and, we could hire a new teacher,
but then to your
but-
point that you made at some point is that we're
Yeah.
hiring a master's 5 essentially.
Yeah.
Instead of, it's a much more expensive teacher than it used to be, which is
True,
a factor.
but I would say in that case, you would, as we have done with some other positions, you look for, you look for the bachelor's
Mhm.
4 or 5,
Right.
We do have some teachers that.
Which buys you the first 2 years until they're gonna get the
It
master's.
probably buys you 4 years, but
Oh,
yes,
okay.
you're absolutely right,
Eventually.
because the master's 5 or 6 is in the $61,000 range
Right.
now. So, yeah, so it's something we have to keep working on.
So our budget and finance meeting was fun.
I think it was interesting, Wayne Snow, but we were talking about the revolving accounts, you know, he made a point to say that's a conversation that some people ask about, like, well, you have all this money in these revolving accounts, and, you know, number one, it's not town money, it's raised through fees. And he said, you know, people just need to understand that money that's sitting in those accounts is not discretionary money that you can put into your budget, that it's for specific things. And that is something that he said, we can't say that enough to the public. Because the people who are questioning that are just looking at the bottom line totals and saying, what do you mean you don't have $50,000 to, you know, buy that, you know, whatever it is you need to buy? Because you can't just take the money out of something that people are paying fees for to do something with it that is, you know, not consistent with the spirit of where the money comes from. So.
It'd be much easier when we have negative balances in those accounts too.
Yeah.
But then you gotta cover that out of the general fund,
That's,
yeah.
and that's the other thing we talked about, is, you know, you have to cover it out of the general fund. So anyway.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That ray of sunshine.
So we might have a little chill coming up here for tonight.
Pretty certain it's coming.
Well, you know, if you figure it's a quarter of the year, it's already on. Right, so we can't wait until the,
No, 'cause then it's
you
too
know,
late.
winter,
Yeah.
the
The
spring,
freeze
because
doesn't
then
even matter.
you can't make up that amount of money
Yeah.
without potentially looking at sort of.
Well, on the,
Reductions.
looking at the glass half full,
Yep.
it's not something that our administrators aren't used to,
No,
you know?
this is a true thing.
And
That's
even
true.
Dan.
Was that part of the conversation with Dan?
No, but I remember
No,
the
Dan
parent
understood.
Yeah, no, I
the
know.
parent meeting we had with Dan
Yeah.
before he was hired.
Yeah.
One of the
Totally.
parents had asked him that, and he had said, "Oh no, you know, Belmont, we went through the same thing. I'm
Yep.
used to freezes, and we do it, and we understand it, and
Yeah.
so at least it wouldn't be a shock to their system."
Oh, no,
Right.
they're not gonna be surprised when we talk about it.
No.
I mean, we have been talking all along
Yes.
with them about, you know, and they understand.
Mhm.
They understand.
All right, I'm gonna make a motion to approve line item transfers, number 132 to 170 in the amount of $84,256.35, dated November 15th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Did you not get those? They're in your packet. They're probably separate. This, yeah.
Yeah.
Are they in the back?
No, that's separate.
Barbie has to sign it, right?
This is the original.
That's
so-
the original, yeah.
Suzanne has it.
Yeah, so Barbie has to sign it.
Yep.
Are you good, Michael, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So someone so moved,
All in favor?
do we second?
Yep.
Yep, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Aye, thank you.
So I'll take that, Barbie.
Yeah.
Can I use your pen up there? Thank you.
And,
That's
okay, I'm gonna do the acceptance of donations. So we have anonymous anonymous school lunch program donation in the amount of $51. The same very
Same dedicated
generous
group.
group of people that
Awesome.
really are thinking of our kids, which is very thoughtful
Yes,
of
it
them. So I'll make a donation to accept the donation, I will make a motion to accept the donation in the amount of $51 from an anonymous donor, which will be used by the food service program. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. The fair that Heidi does, the holiday, what are we actually, the Pembroke Holiday Fair, what a great donation that is. I know she puts a lot of effort and work into that. I sent her an email today, because I was,
Yeah, that was
believe
nice.
it.
She'll appreciate that.
But that is very nice of her to do that, to, you know, put that all together. It's a huge undertaking to organize all that, and then, you know, a lot of time out of her day, and I'm sure she has many helpers, which I appreciate that as well. So I will make a motion to accept the generous donation of $3,496.83. Well, hold on. Oh, right, that's the two of
It's to
them
be
total.
divided up,
Okay,
yeah.
so, and I wanna mention that, so $500 of that amount will go to Pearlie Preschool, and the remaining balance will go towards Pembroke Elementary School, which was donated from Heidi Began.
So moved. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's such a nice community event.
Yeah.
It is.
It's nice.
It's a lot
She's
of
been
fun.
doing it for years.
Yeah.
She said she started doing it when she was in Salem. And so, you know, she's been here for a long time, and she said, you know, we're talking about fundraisers, she goes, oh, you wanna think of a really good fundraiser that, you know, we did in Salem, and it's taken off
Mm.
in Georgetown.
And she loves that crafty, you know, she
Oh,
scrapbooks and
Oh,
she's
oh,
great at
she's
stuff
very
like that.
crafty, yeah.
So,
But she has a lot of the
it's definitely up her
community that
alley.
are also selling
Their stuff, yeah. Yeah,
which
it's
is
great.
great, yeah.
Well, and the PTA made over $600 in a cookie walk.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's great. And so tell me what the Cookie Walk does,
So, people donate, they make
They make
cookies and
cookies.
donate them,
Okay.
and then, you can buy a box for $5 or a larger bag for $8, and you just fill it with whatever,
Nice.
and
So you walk
Whatever
out with a
will
whole
fit in.
bunch of
Oh.
different kinds of cookies that,
so I wonder how many bakers they had.
they
They
just
just
started
did
the
that.
day off with a ton of cookies.
Nice.
They didn't have enough place to
Yeah.
put them.
Wow. So
And
that
it
was
was-
good
it was
for
a-
them.
Although I helped like the last 2 hours.
Yeah.
It was a pretty
So
empty
it
table
was
at the end.
pretty, yeah, it was very empty.
Do you know how the PTA did, oh, that wasn't the PTA, at Election Day? That was that the
That was the big sale.
Yeah,
That was the
big
sixth
sale was
grade.
for the
Sixth
sixth
Yes,
grade.
yeah, they did really, really
I bet.
well.
They usually do too.
Oh,
celebration
cookies.
party.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good, and the voting day was busy, so that
Yeah.
helped
Yeah, it
them
was
too.
great.
2,000.
Wow, that's great too.
that's a lot of baked goods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of baked
Yeah, well,
goods.
and
for
so
them.
they had cookies till 4:30, and it was a brisk, I mean, people were just coming in
Yeah,
all day long.
yeah.
They had a lot
Yeah,
of
because it was a
baked
rainy
goods.
day,
Yeah,
that day.
right,
Wow.
but that
So
didn't
who
deter
ran
people.
that? Who ran that?
That was
Sixth
the class,
grade.
the class,
Oh, the class.
the
Sixth grade.
So for the
Yeah.
2025.
So they raised
Oh,
the
they
money
used
for
that
their
for the end of the year.
End of
So-
the year,
Right.
Well, and just in terms of the book fair at Pembroke last week, they sold $17,299.37 worth of merchandise.
Wow.
Which transferred over, because we get scholastic
That's
bucks
amazing.
for that,
Yeah.
so because of those sales, we earned $8,649.69 in scholastic.
So that's what the
bucks.
teachers
They get to use
use?
that.
Well, it's used for different things, like we use it for the spelling bee
Okay.
last year, where every student got a book,
Oh,
and there was a
okay.
contest where the class at each grade level who had the most participants earned like a big box of books. Mrs. Fazio gets quite a few books for
That's
the
great.
library.
Good.
And then,
Yeah, that's a lot
That's
of money.
great, yeah, that is, that's great.
it was, it seems like over the last 3 years, it goes up a couple $1,000s. They did an evening, like a Wednesday evening from 5 to 8, and that in itself, they made like
That's
$3,000.
Well,
Oh,
is that
that's
new?
good.
People can't come in during the day
Yeah.
if they're
No.
working, you know, that's a nice.
Well, they started doing that because,
The kids were buying all the,
well,
the
and
erasers
parents
and
wanted
everything.
something.
Oh.
Well, the preschool doesn't do the book fair. They used to have the book fair when kindergarten and first grade were over there.
Oh, okay.
But they don't anymore, so to give them a chance.
Oh.
And they did have specific, we had boxes of preschool books that were just put out for that night.
Mm-hmm.
And then like more gift kind of items, holiday items,
Wow, that's
So-
great.
yeah.
It's quite a good amount of money to be
Absolutely.
good. I do wanna mention tomorrow night is the Georgetown Music Parents.
Parents, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Auction. It starts at 7:00. It's at the Black Swan.
Mhm.
It's always a
This is
fun
their-
night.
This is their big fundraiser,
Right.
so.
Yes.
Because this year, the kids are going, to Disney, as we all know, so, it's a great way to pick up some really good items, because the silent auction is, I was told that it's gonna run till about 9:00. There's, an opportunity to get some really nice gifts for not too much money, because it's not huge like the PTA auction, it's on a smaller scale, but still they do very well. So I hope people, if they have some time, they wanna get out to go there and support them.
That'd be great.
And they have a lot of different.
Yeah, they have a
items.
ton, yeah, they
You
have a
can
couple
see
of
it
getaways.
online, you can
It's a
preview
really
it.
hard-working
Yeah.
group.
Yeah,
Yes.
and very generous with where they put the money and thing, you know, they're very good with the program, that group of parents that run it.
Yeah.
But as we all know, when your child is enrolled in the music program, you are automatically a Georgetown Music parent.
Mhm.
You know, it's not like the PTA where you actually have to,
Opt in.
be a
Right.
member. So, some people don't know that you're automatically a music parent when your child enrolls, so.
Same thing with a sports booster.
Exactly, that's right. If your child is a student athlete, you are a booster. Okay, so we pretty much got the budget and finance,
Pretty
run over, right? Okay, so, public relations.
Oh, yes, we did meet,
We did.
actually, and I have draft minutes from that meeting. Sorry. Well, they're very brief, it's, just, and take a look, I took your suggestion, I Googled a little bit. And so we went over Carol's performance goals.
Those are actually in the packet. We
So
need to-
maybe,
This is?
No.
no, in another
these are-
form,
Oh,
yes.
that is in the packet, yes.
Yeah.
So
and-
Do we
went
wanna
over-
talk about that in conjunction? Carol's goals?
This is kind of the essence of what we went over in the meeting. I mean, for our next meeting, we can, discuss other goals for the year and maybe talk about the town annual report and
No, but
communication
tonight we were gonna
strategy,
talk
but-
about your goals.
We have that on the agenda.
Right.
I don't know if you wanna.
We wanna do that in conjunction with this though?
Sure, we can do that. Anyway, we definitely totally agreed with all of these goals. I think the first one is really, really
Huh?
interesting. Maybe
Yeah.
you'd like to explain
I
it. It's
know.
called instructional rounds, and I have a couple of little things. It's a practice really promoted by Harvard School of Education. And they have a course on it, and they have a book on it.
The reason
Yeah, why
that
is it
it
in
was-
PR?
Well, because we talked about what were the communication strategies and goals for the year. And I think it was just, we were trying to get this done for this meeting, the
Oh.
goals. And it's usually been that group that did it. Last year it was Cheryl and Suzanne. And this year it's Suzanne and Pam. So that's why we did it that way. That, it was just we.
That's fine.
How come we
Yeah,
have so many
sure.
goals though?
No, I don't, I
No.
don't.
No, there's
I
four.
don't. I-
No.
Oh, goals.
So I took the goals you guys
I get it.
asked
Yeah,
me
yeah,
about,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And then I worked with the administration, because, like improving the math performance is something that we're doing as a district, right? So, so we all kind of work together on this, and then the goal here would be to report, usually we report twice, but I figured we could just do it 3 times, even though, the evaluation's in April, right? So we'll just do it all through the year, just for your benefit.
Just to update
for us.
the public and us.
So basically, the first one was the instructional rounds, which we're doing as an administrative team. That, I can explain to you what that is, but that's basically giving all of us on the administrative team, of course, me included, sort of an opportunity to sort of develop common understandings together, make sure that we're calibrating what we're expecting in instruction similarly. And so what we will do is we will go into classrooms as a group, actually probably split into 2 groups, but as a group, looking for specific things. And it really isn't an evaluation of the teachers by any means. It's an opportunity for us to share, what we're seeing in classrooms, and then if there's something driving our planning about how we want to continue to drive improvement. So like, let's say we go in, we'll have a form, which we're gonna talk about on Tuesday when we meet. We'll have a form, and basically, we'll have a way to collect data, and then we meet after and we discuss what we saw, and what are the implications for our work. So, sometimes it'll be, you may see different things, but it's just gonna inform us all. Margaret sees certain things because she's in as evaluations. Colin would love to get into the classrooms more, but there's no reason for him to go in at this point, right? Jack, we changed the special ed programs. It'd be good to be able to have everybody seeing the same thing, including Dan and Margaret seeing each other's schools. But it's a professional activity. It's similar to if you went to work at a teaching hospital.
It's
It's
actually
the concept of
borrowed from the
Yeah,
medical
world.
world.
So
Yeah.
we said professional practical, we did that. Then the student learning goal, we looked at, when we were looking at the MCAS scores, we were looking at, right now there's about, right around 29% of the students who are, kind of at that cusp between, partially meeting and meeting. And so the discussion was if we looked at ELA, math, and science, which are all sort of in that, the high needs group sort of is in that, anywhere from 29% of the kids who are not meeting the standards. We want to increase it to about 35 to 40%. And according to strategies we've set up, we're hoping that would be the case. So that was our goal there. We're all working on that together. And that you asked us to look at the high needs group, so that's why we're doing that. In terms of goal 3, you asked me to talk about what we're doing to implement social emotional learning programs. So that's that goal. And then goal 4, you asked us to look at math performance at Pembroke in the middle high school. And so that explains why we're there. So it's those 4 goals. And then what we'll do is like we did before, we'll fill in with it.
That looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went over it.
I'd like to see the rubric or the form that you're gonna come up with for the strategies.
Sure, no problem.
And I'll just to talk about CPAC a little bit, there is another CPAC meeting presentation on December 11th. It's called Beyond Basic Rights with Attorney Daniel Perlman, Tuesday, 6:45 to 7:45 at the Georgetown Peabody Library. There was one on November 13th, actually, was that yesterday? It was canceled.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what I was trying
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, but this one is the next one coming up.
Okay. Anybody else have meetings? I know negotiations are trying to figure out a date.
That's something okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did have governance, that was last week. And we pretty much talked about, the crowdfunding policy, sort of the GoFundMe pages and how that all fits in with fundraising.
Right.
And
And so, what did you guys decide on that?
well, we were looking at, Pam brought
The
CREST
CREST policy, which is
policy.
relatively new,
and then we were
and then the
looking-
mask recommended policy.
Right.
And we kind of talked about the pros and cons of each, and so I put them together kind of based on our discussions. And so we're gonna take a look at that at our next meeting, and then we'll, make any more further recommendations, and then we might be ready
Because
to bring
who's
it
been using them?
to the committee.
Who's been
You know, it
using
seems
what?
like it seems like the athletic department has been using the crowd.
Well, then we
Well,
had
then we had
the,
that FBLA.
Oh, the
Yeah.
FBLA,
Who's
used
used
to
once.
GoFundMe.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
So
a
there's
lot
a
of
need, yeah, there's
districts
definitely a
are
need.
having to update that or
Yeah,
create that policy.
because of
Yeah.
this new
Definitely.
way of collecting
Right.
money.
Right, so we're
Cash.
in process with it.
Yeah, and it's a huge thing because, you gotta figure out who's caring for the money, how is it being processed, things like that, so that's good that you're looking into that.
So that was pretty much
The gist of it. So it's gonna be a new policy,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
so we'll have the 2
Yeah,
meetings.
'cause I think
and
we
then-
talked about,
Yeah.
do we want to expand our fundraising policy?
Well, that's what I was wondering, if you were
and-
gonna do that, because it's easier to approve, it's quicker
It is
process.
quicker, it is a quicker
But
process.
you wonder if it should be its own in terms of all
I don't know, I
these.
guess we were thinking it's its own entity, but.
Well, I think
I'd like to
too
look
where-
at the mask one, see what they have.
Yeah, where NASC has,
Yeah.
it's standing alone.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
be done.
So I mean, I have the draft, so at our next meeting, we can compare it to our other policy, and make sure there's not overlap. Think about, should it be one policy, is it best as two?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
kinda like what we did with the field trips, right? We had a few different things and we said,
Yeah.
well, you know, sort of, you know, all one policy.
How did, the conference go?
Oh.
I'd like to hear from you on that.
It was good.
So the MASC, MASS, did you go?
Nope.
No.
It seems to keep getting bigger, which is a good thing.
Good.
A lot of good sessions. There was the Blizzard Bag session that I went to, which was
Yeah.
certainly timely for
Were there a lot of people in that one?
There
Or-
were, well, it was on Saturday morning.
Oh, okay, some
So
people
the
leave
attendance
by then.
definitely drops on Saturday morning, but it was a pretty full room
Yeah.
still.
Okay.
So that was good. There was a bunch of financial ones that I went to because I'm a glutton for financial
Oh, yes.
punishment.
And did you find that any other any other communities fall into the same situation that we do?
I think most do, certainly. It's a lot of the same issues
Yeah.
happening in a lot of different places.
Yeah.
But I think that the benefit of the conference is seeing other districts that are kind of dealing with stuff we are
Yeah,
and what
you
they're
don't
doing
feel
to.
so alone.
Well, you don't feel so alone, but you see what other people are doing to
And what's
sort of
working,
figure it
what's
out.
not
Yeah.
working, and, Right.
So yeah, it was a good weekend. Or 4 days,
4 days,
whatever it was.
And
Yeah.
thanks for that information that you were sending out, that you had learned about, you know, the Brisbane.
For sure, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Oh, what did you?
Well, I sent it to
He
the
just, he
Blizzard
sent it
Bag.
to
Oh, that's
our
right,
committee,
yeah.
but he
Yeah.
had some really good information from, the Department of,
There's some DESE stuff.
DESE.
There were 4 districts that presented.
That are currently doing it and have been successful or implementation?
That have implement, yeah.
Oh,
I mean, I mean, so it's some good data that
Yeah,
they,
some
that they
great
collected
information.
to see if it
because
was.
they've done it, you know, for
Yeah.
a couple of years anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
And also to see what some parent feedback was, what
Yeah.
some student feedback was.
Oh,
kind of
that's
things that
great.
they had faced.
because I am just so torn between it, you know, I have a real difficult time with it, but
Is, you know,
Me too,
I
me too, it's,
I get it because we've had such, I know, I'm sorry.
What did you say?
She said, not me.
She's not torn at all.
Oh, wait,
and being a
you're-
teacher, I would like to see the
Oh,
Blizzard Bags
okay.
being,
got it.
Yeah,
So
I don't
you're
know,
in
I-
favor of it.
Originally I was, but then when I was all for it, but then when you look into it more and you see the questions that people, or educators like say, like, is it really, a good, a replacement of a school day, like instructional, and I
but when you
Well,
have
and then
10
we're
days that you
different.
have to make up,
Yeah.
and you're going on weekends, and you're going to the
yeah,
end.
I get it, that's why, I get it. but-
levels.
So our little work group met today, and, you know, we've been engaged we did a lot of the research. Michael added some more today, which is great, including some survey data, which is kind of one of the things we were sort of talking about. And what we did is we met in we looked at different ones, and we created ourselves a grid. So we could look at some comparisons, and then we put a column that says, if Georgetown did it, this is what we would recommend. And you know, it's generated some very good discussions about things like how many days would we recommend, you know, it be before it kicks in. And there was, you know, quite a span of thinking on that. You know, would we do it this year, or would we set up this process and, you know, have, you know, because one of the things that lessons learned that I read in these things is you can jump right in, but you also, the people basically are finding that teachers tend to support it more than parents.
Teachers?
Teachers tend to support it more than parents.
That-
So one of the
Parents don't want
lessons.
to be involved in doing it and doing
Well,
their
but
time
that's a
there, too.
factor, and
Sure.
that's a factor, and you have to hear that, right? So people, you know, kind of like, well, and then is it supposed to be something creative and innovative, or is it okay to have it be, you know, something that the kids can do independently that parents shouldn't have to help them on, right? So, you know, like the devil's in the details, we always say that, right? But one of the things that I took away from it is that, you know, you do need to invest some upfront time in like talking to the different constituency groups and really building the case for why this is something that is, you know, important to try. and work through, listen to the questions that parents ask, and, you know, be able to step back and say, all right, is there a way we can do this so that, you know, it really does meet the needs of people, so you can get people's support.
To hear this particular
Right,
community's
because the last thing
concerns
you
and
wanna do is
questions.
force something down people's throat where you don't have the support for it.
Right. Or the need for,
Why
I
would we
mean,
create
you
a
know.
battle, right, over
Who's in the,
something?
who's in the group?
Suzanne and me,
Okay. So,
Suzanne and Michael from the.
from the school committee side.
Yeah. And so how many
the
people
number of
total?
teachers.
They're probably 10,
Oh, okay.
plus or minus.
And administrators, who's on it for administrators?
Margaret's.
Margaret's on it, and then we have a parent who
Mm-hmm.
joined us, Missy. And then, you know, a range, so there, we have a music teacher on there, so we have a specialist. Well, today Erica Giuliani had approached me and said, could I join? She's a paraprofessional, absolutely, come along. So now we have paraprofessional, we have high school teachers, you know.
A good mix of
good
And then, so are they
specialists.
mostly, are they mostly for it, or are they
No,
just,
it-
is it, right now, they
We're
don't
just,
know
we're
yet?
just looking
Right.
at
I
information
think
more
they'd be
than forming
mostly
opinions.
for it, but they,
Yeah.
just like anything else, you have to make sure the conditions work.
Is Joe on it?
Joe is not, no, Corey Chanette is on it,
Yeah. He's got some
sort of
reasons.
from the union,
Mhm.
but yeah, so it's a good group. I mean, people work hard, Carrie Donovan Lee, you know, there's, that Lisa Ryer wasn't there today, but Lisa's on it. and-
And we're having another meeting on Monday. I
Monday.
believe, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the question is, you know, if we were to
Good.
even go forward with it this year, you know, the timeline's pretty short.
I know.
Right, so the question is, you know, does it make more sense to sort of frame out what you'd like to see and then go out and talk to people about it and try to see where the support is or what would need to happen? But somebody said, well, we were talking about surveys, and somebody said, well, you know, we have to be careful, kind of like we survey for Start School Later, right? You have to be prepared, if the group says no,
Yeah.
you have to
Right.
be prepared for that,
No,
right?
Kentucky's doing a
Yeah.
pilot for
Are they?
the blizzard bags this year.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see
Yeah.
how they do
Yeah.
and what they're doing with
Right.
it, you know.
And there is gonna be guidance coming out from, because I'm on that group, so there is gonna be guidance coming out from DESI. We'll see what the level of specificity is, but they're going through the same process we went through. They generated the same issues, the same questions. And they're gonna have their recommendations by April, they were talking about by April. So, you know, does it make sense then to, you know, take a more deliberate approach to it and, you know,
See what those look like.
see what those things look like? You know, that's the discussion that we're having.
Good, I mean, I think it's great that the discussion is happening. And, you know, you do wanna do all that you can to make sure if it does get rolled out, gets rolled out
And
the
is
right
successful.
way, and there's
I don't know
a
if you
lot
can
of
pop
thought.
in, I don't know,
What did you say?
if, you know, you wanna pop in just to see the discussion,
Mm.
what's being, I don't know
Yeah.
if it's too many, but.
There's a quorum question as
It's a
well.
quorum's
Yeah.
questions.
All right, well, I wouldn't participate, maybe.
I just want you to.
But the question is,
No,
you know,
that's
should
great,
we
though. I'm
survey,
glad that
what
there's
would
a lot
it
of
look
people
like?
involved.
Yeah, yeah.
Does-
Yeah, it's a good
No, it's a
conversation.
good, it's a
Yeah,
good
it really
group.
is.
It's a
Any
good group.
students?
You know, there are no students, but you know, I think we did talk about if we were to, you know, gather more data and get people's thoughts and feedback, students would be a group we would definitely, because I know
Survey.
that these groups that are doing it now, when they surveyed
The kids.
students. Yeah, and I think there were kids who had mixed reviews, you know. So, there's a lot to it, it's not as simple as say, oh yeah, let's do blizzard bags.
Mhm.
No.
Might be a great concept, but it's like, you know, and the data was very interesting, you know, that number of parents who, you know, didn't feel it was worth the time.
Oh, in the surveys that you presented?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And concerns or questions about special ed and,
Right,
you know,
yeah,
all
because
of
I know
that.
on Facebook, there was quite, a lot of parents like, you know, were for it.
Yeah.
Oh, blizzard bags, what is it? So that's the thing, they just think it's.
well, that's it, that's why it wouldn't
Yeah.
move
But once you
us, I
dive
think,
into
to
it, it's just
educate
the
people.
complexity of,
And I
you
think,
know, from each group.
On June 27th, when you're in school,
Yeah.
the number of people who support blizzard bags
Yeah.
is very different from a
That's right,
academic,
yeah,
should account for a day
yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
It's,
Mhm.
yeah, it's an interesting.
And then the
split.
next time, we're gonna talk about, you know, so what's the answer to the question about how much time should kids spend, right? So
Is it an hour?
is
or
it an
20
hour,
minutes?
is it 20 minutes, you know, it's like the homework discussion all over again, right? You know,
Right, 10 minutes a grade.
10 minutes a grade, or, you know.
Right, how long should the child
Yeah, and
actually
then,
be working on?
and then the other thing we talked about some today is, so then what are the expectations for different kinds of teachers? Different kinds of professionals? Right, so if
Right.
you're not a classroom
Exactly, and
teacher.
you're a para.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
what should you be doing?
So again,
Today,
my personal opinion is if we're gonna strongly consider it, we should do the upfront knowledge and be deliberate. I'm not a fan of, oh, let's just
Yeah,
jump right
rolling it
into
out.
it and react to it. I
Because
just,
Melrose, I think, did it, and then they
Yeah.
stopped it,
Well, they
and then
did.
Masco same.
And Melrose had what I liked about the Melrose information that we got is they included their motion, they included a lot
Oh, yeah,
of,
they
a lot
did,
of
yeah.
process
but you see how many times
information.
it failed?
Not just, we did it and here's the answer. It
Yeah.
was, here's the discussions we had, here's
Yeah.
what kind of worked and didn't work and rolling
Yeah.
it out. And it was
Yeah,
like-
right.
I'd
I
like
read
to
the
see
school
how it
committee
works
minutes.
in
Yeah.
Pentucket.
That they had on that.
Yeah,
You know, and I'd like to know what they're using and how they're doing it and how they came to that decision.
yeah,
So
Like the
I might,
Wakefield.
I might contact somebody.
go ahead. you
Yeah,
should,
I
you
think I
should.
will, just to get a better understanding.
Yeah, and if they're
Yeah.
just starting it,
Yeah.
they won't know exactly.
Right, they won't have the data, but I'd like to know how they're rolling it out,
Oh,
as the
absolutely.
pilot.
Absolutely, I agree 100%.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah.
I know a school committee member at Kentucky.
Oh, we should find
Oh,
out.
yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, great.
Thank you for going to the conference, though. It's always nice to,
Is it snowing?
that you do that
Oh, yeah.
for us,
Thank
and,
you so
you know,
much.
it just is an inopportune
I know.
time
Thank
for
you
me
for-
to go.
Thank you for doing that for us.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
good
that's
about
good
that.
that you go every year, Michael.
It is. Okay, I think we're good. I'm going to, make a motion to adjourn at 9:29 PM. There's no reason to have an executive session tonight, so,
So pray for rain.
right, it's snowing now.
It's going to rain.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
it's definitely stuff,
make a
yeah.
motion to end.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
great, third.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, have a good night.
Pray for rain.